Hello there, welcome to Poker Night Live. I'm Matt Broughton and I'm going to be with you for the next 4 hours as we bring you the very best in internet poker action. But I'm not alone. With me tonight, offering his expert commentary and analysis, is Mr. Caspar. Good evening, Mr. Caspar.
Hi.
It's nice to see you.
Lovely to see you too.
Are you well?
Very well.
Excellent stuff. Always good news. And as well as myself and Caspar, there's you. This is a fully interactive show and we welcome and encourage all your contact. We want your questions, subjects you'd like to discuss, anything really you'd like to bring up. There are a number of ways you can get in touch with us. And here is but one of them. It is our text, which has changed recently, so pay attention. 84222 is the number. You must start your message with the word poker to 84222, and please also include your name. You can also email us, as always, poker@pokernightlive.co.uk. And perchance in the breaks and after the show, why not check out our glorious website, www.pokernightlive.co.uk, for all sorts of exciting fun. Meantime, we've got lots of action for you tonight, and I'm going to ask Mr. Caspar if he'd be so kind as to take us around the tables.
Round the tables we go. Here comes some tables. $10 sit and go there. Look, buy an 11. Tells you everything you need to know.
It's a wealth of information.
$30 sit and go, quite a biggie. What are we going to be playing in later, Matt? And which one of us is going to be playing?
I don't know. We're going to have to battle it out.
It's a coin flip at the moment, isn't it?
It is.
Like the classic Hold'em heads up. That is a cash game. I can tell. That is the generic Poker Night Live multi-table tournament.
That would be the green table of love.
How many entrants are there, Matt, do you know?
116 entrants currently playing there, and this is our multi-table tournament, which we will bounce in and out of all night long, culminating on the final table. Lots of chips, lots of excitement. And let's just watch this, because it's quite a juicy hand going on here.
It is. It's exciting, isn't it? This is just the round robin, and already we're in the thick of the action. Fantastic. It's like broadcasting gold.
Exactly. So they are. Those are the tables that you'll be seeing as the evening progresses. We are on till 2 AM. Lots of time to get in touch with us. All your questions, please do get in touch with us. But to start with, I believe we're going to take a bit of a single table sit and go action right now.
Good.
$30 buy-in. This is a good game. Kings again. We're just kings everywhere. It's going to be the hand of the night, I feel.
Do we still do that?
No, I just mean, you know, sometimes there seems to be a hand that just pops up a lot.
Crops up a lot, gets into the conversation.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Nick and I were supposed to do a show on Monday night together.
What happened?
Technical problems, Matt. I don't understand. All I know is we weren't happy.
Were you here?
We were here, well, we were sitting here, yeah, we were on time. Just, it has to be said, but we were on time. And we had all sorts of things to talk about, because we spent the entire weekend sitting on War Couch, playing internet poker, and watching the first series of The West Wing.
You guys are crazy.
Continuously. Yeah, it's not much of a life, to be honest with you.
There is no better way to celebrate the love of our Lord Jesus than playing internet poker while sitting next to somebody not talking to them for 12 hours solid.
Yeah, but we did have a toast on Sunday. What more do you want?
What, a slice of, or...?
Both. And we said, there he is, going up there, well done. Very clever.
It was 50-50, but he pulled through on the river.
And and we had a catastrophic weekend for outdraws, both of us. It was really interesting. We sat there laughing, because first of all we sat there shouting, and then we said, this isn't the advice that we give out on the telly.
You can talk the talk, but can you walk the walk?
Exactly, absolutely. And then I started visualising, and he went very quiet, because I went very weird.
Oh, you didn't do that thing you do on telly, did you?
I
You
didn't do it on telly.
talking all deep stuff and getting, you know...
No, I did it.
Oh,
That's
you
the
did
thing.
it?
Yeah, I didn't just talk it, I did it.
Wow.
Mr. Perfect there with aces, doing exactly what he knows he should do. Isn't that the key to success? Will Buffer Bruce have a sneaky little call with his undercard connectors? He will, you know. And in some ways it's worked out pretty awful for him, because he's caught a piece of the flop. Of course, he doesn't know that Mr. Perfect has aces, may put him on ace-king or ace-queen, and may feel that he's got him beat at this time. That's a good confident bet there from Perfect.
Mr. Perfect is waving the flag, isn't he? He is kind of sending out the messages, let's be honest.
And good for Buffer Bruce, actually. That's a good fold, because, like I said, it's the kind of flop that you catch a little piece of and you think, well, you know, I've got a pair and I may make something else on the turn, so I'll pee away another 120 chips.
Easily done. And we have a lady at the table. Snaky, I understand, is a female poker player.
How do you understand that?
Because I was on with Michelle the other night, and Michelle seemed to know a lot about Snaky, who was a lady player. I believe they'd exchanged emails at some point.
Oh, okay. Probably calling each other names or something.
I did tune in to see you and Nick, and actually was confronted by a repeat of myself and Michelle from the night before, which was quite strange.
Yeah.
But I was looking forward to all sorts of banter. Did you have any jokes prepared that you'd like to kind of reel off now?
Do you know, we didn't know. We'd like to do it spontaneously. But we also were in quite the mood for a serious poker show, actually, because that weekend had been quite a weird experience for us. And not weird at all. Actually, quite the opposite, normal. But at least the intensity of it, because we really did play sort of from Saturday morning till Monday evening, with breaks only for sleep, and poignant scenes on the West Wing.
Nice.
And we had aces between us in that time. We had aces 6 times. That didn't stand up once.
Good.
Let's see if they do for Snaky.
Yeah.
I had 7 consecutive flush draws against me, all of which came off. Sounding dangerously like a bad beat story, isn't it?
It's an interesting exploration into the maths of poker, is I think the way you want to build that.
But how do you deal with that? And the only thing that stopped me from losing a serious amount of money was my usual sort of good run in the sit and goes. But in mainline tournaments, some big, some small, poor.
Ugh. What games do you like to play when you're not in telly? What was your main fodder?
100 sit and goes. And there's a $30 rebuy tournament, which is basically a $150 game.
Right.
Because when I'm playing that, will play very loose early doors. That's the one that I won about 6 weeks ago now, I think.
That's good.
Just a nice $10,000 first prize. And I came 17th in it over the weekend, and had one of the most depressing hands I've had for a long time, actually. I was...
7-8 offsuit by any chance?
Nope. I was... where was I exactly? I think I was about 14th in terms of stack. Maybe 13th or 14th. So I was reasonably desperate. I was reasonably up against it. I think I probably had about 7, maybe 8 big blinds in my stack. And in the big blind, it was passed around to the button, and the button had gone from being quite low stacked to just more than doubled through. So he had, if I had 8 big blinds, he had about 10 or 11, right? And he made a raise from the button, and it was really interesting because it was basically a very shoddy amount. It wasn't a specific amount, yeah. And he'd done it a couple of times. And I thought about it a long time, and I just thought it just smacked. It was this shoddy amount. He'd just gone like that with the slider. Yeah. Yeah, and just made a raise to try and take it from the button. And I had King 7. Now I can't know that I'm best at that point, but I still. So if he made it 3 times, roughly 3 times the big blind. So I had 4 big blinds bigger than that. So I pushed, basically, and he thought for a long, long time about it, and then he wrote in the box pot odds, and he called with 10-8. And the problem with it was, for me, was that I knew, do you know what I mean? I knew I'd put a number of different things, mainly quite amorphous memories together, to know that I was best against this guy. I knew that I wasn't brilliantly best, but I also knew that I'd made a move that he probably should have folded. Yeah. Because he didn't know I didn't have ace 10 or a pair of 10s or a pair of 8s or you know, all sorts of hands, which at that point he still had, you know, 5 or 6 big, no, he had 7 big blinds in his stack. He didn't need to call and leave himself with next to nothing with 10-8. So I was kind of, I was upset because obviously he outdrew me basically, and I took 17th. But that was a really interesting hand because it really kind of, it did, you know, it sometimes does make me angry, but you've got to contain it to about sort of 4 or 5 minutes.
How did you deal with your anger?
Well, to be honest, it was such a good-natured weekend that it was fine. It was over and done with.
Cracked open another Easter egg, laughed about it in your pants and socks, put on another DVD. That's poker.
Was there CCTV footage of it?
Sorry?
Have you seen CCTV footage?
Yep. Nick shares everything with me on text.
Well, no, we didn't crack open Easter egg because, as you'll know if you've talked to Nick about it, Nick thinks Easter's weird, and I agree with him.
Weird.
We don't understand it. Never have done. Don't get into the egg thing. Never. I think it's quite surreal, actually. So it's like the marketing group around a table going, "How shall we, bloke on the cross there, chocolate eggs?" And I personally think, my view of it is that it's capitalism's fault that Easter's weird because they don't exploit it enough. Why don't they sit around the table going, "Hang on, chocolate eggs, that's fair enough, but we really could turn this into another Christmas"? Why don't they do that?
I think because they know they're pushing it already. I think the card manufacturers, they know that really they're getting pretty good hits on Father's Day and Mother's Day. They did that whole Secretary's Day.
Screw the card manufacturers. That's just the tip of the iceberg, man. You're not thinking big enough. I thought you were in marketing. I'm saying Tonka trucks. I'm saying perfume. I'm saying, what does your mum want at Easter? A chocolate egg or some more Elizabeth Arden?
You're right. I've really not seen the whole gift voucher side of Easter, have I?
I often get Elizabeth Arden confused with Elizabeth Shaw, the chocolates. So it's lucky I didn't do that there.
Yeah, because that wouldn't really have made your point.
So anyway, very short burst of anger contained, and then into the next game. And one of the things that Nick and I commented on was, as you know, because you've been to Las Vegas, you've played in those morning tournaments in the Luxor. That used to be what we did in the morning, and then there was nothing tournament-wise for the rest of the day. This was in Las Vegas, all right, 5 years ago. Now, God knows how many sites. Just one site, there's another tournament along in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
It's mad.
Yeah. Yeah, yes, but I made this point, myself and night nurse Michelle played in a live game last night. We went out, and she got knocked out reasonably early in one, and of course she had to sit there for an hour. And I was just saying, see how different it is when there isn't just a lobby.
Absolutely.
See how much more it hurts when you've got to sit here waiting for this game to finish up before you can get into another game. That's what it used to be like.
Absolutely.
And that's why there was a dealer's choice game going on. It's like that's why you need to be able to play horse, or you need to at least be able to dabble in some other games, because you're just sitting here going...
Well, yeah, but that wasn't... Is that your horse impression?
Accidentally, that was a horse impersonation.
The thing was that wasn't the case in Vegas. There was never dealer's choice. Do you know what I mean? It was like,
no, sorry. No, what I mean is, as in, if you turn up at a card room and the Texas game's full up and there's 6 people on the waiting list, but there were seats in the Omaha or in the 7 card, then you probably sit down and play because you want to. You've turned up and you want to play games.
Sure. Well, that's the thing. Is a lot of the negative feeling when busting out of a tournament at that stage was about the fact that you had to get the 301 back down the strip. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there was nothing left to do. Now, we're both saying the same thing. In this age of internet poker, you've got no right or cause to be that pissed off.
Absolutely. As we tune into G. Alder, that's picked himself up Pocket Rockets, is thinking about what to do with this. Ka-ching!
It's a lovely situation, Pocket Rockets in the cut-off, because if Big Blind has anything at all, which he does, he will call you because he'll read you for a steal.
Yeah, a lot of people talking about, using the cut-off as good as the button, because people suspect a steal from the button, but don't always think about the positions behind. But
no, I disagree, mate. I think,
really?
I think people
don't give
any respect to the cut-off either. I'm with TJ. TJ says you have to be stealing 5 places off the button now for it to have any effect. And I completely agree. In fact, I won't steal button cut-off, one before the cut-off or one before that.
Good Lord.
No, not at all. Because the one thing you don't want when you're stealing is people to call you, and the one thing that people in the blinds will do is call a raise from those positions with almost anything, or raise it with Ace-Jack. Whereas it doesn't occur to them to do that for one moment if the raise is from 4 positions.
But how
off.
far back does it become something that's ill-advised to actually try, even though I understand what you're saying about the merits of doing it earlier, because it's better disguised, but how much more trouble are you likely to get into?
Depends entirely on the gap and the state of the gap concept. What does Nick call it? A floating gap?
Yes.
Mark calls it a floating gap. So if the gap is big, I think you can do it from 2nd position. I really do. No one wants to call anything. Not every time, because then people just go, oh, it raises early on all the time.
Yeah.
But as a steal, if you're going to be stealing sort of one round in every 3 or 4 as a basic pre-flop steal, which should be one of a number of different steals you have in your arsenal, I just say what TJ says. I think you should be looking at least 5 places off the button.
I like your style, Mr. Caspar.
What can people call you with? If you're playing in a game with decent players, they won't call you with Ace Queen. Because they don't want to lose a lot of money in a tournament when you know, we've all got sort of 15 big blinds in our stack.
Facing coat and hat time and no lobbies, you know, do it live. No one wants to be sitting there to try and bring that point back to an earlier point.
No, that's right. That's good. It was very well done.
You know, as in, you know, being able to do that in the
seamlessly
tournament.
interwoven.
And I think that was the point I was trying to make initially to Michelle, was feel the pressure, how much more power you can have when you make move against people in a live tournament.
Oh, I see the point you're making now.
So I was just saying, you know, when you're saying about what people don't recall with ace-queen because it's a load of chips and they don't want to get knocked out, it's even more so. The way people played in their second game of the night last night was far more, you could push them around a lot more because they were thinking, God, when I got knocked out that first game, I had to sit there for an hour and a half dealing.
Yeah. Okay, so what you're actually saying is the gap is bigger in a live game where you have to get the bus home.
I believe so.
Interesting point, Mr.
Thank
B.
you. And it's points like
Do you
that
want
that
to
we'd
swap
like
chairs?
to discuss with you tonight. No, I shan't be doing that game. So folks, please do get in touch. If you want to hear Caspar's thoughts on anything interesting like that, I might chip in occasionally if I think I've got something to say, but mostly I just smile at the camera. You can get in touch with us. Email us perhaps. poker@pokernightlive.co.uk. I've already forgotten the new text number myself. I believe it's 84222.
Yeah, you would have thought the producer would either confirm or deny in our ears, wouldn't you?
It would be nice to know, but I'm pretty confident it's 84222. And don't forget, you have to start your message with the word poker for it to work.
Do you have to seamlessly incorporate that into the sentence, or can you just put poker full stop and then start again afresh, anew?
As long as poker is the first thing that you see, that's good. There you go,
Poker.
folks. Text
Colon.
poker and your question. So you don't have to
Discuss.
complete the sentence in less than 12 words. Not poker is a brilliant game because, or poker is something I have a question about for Caspar. Just put the word poker and then what are you talking about?
And then freeform.
And then, yeah, and then just take it from there.
Okay.
As we return to our $30 single, nobody's got plonked out of yet. We saw Bluffer Bruce. He had some kings a while back, held up against Big Ad's flush draw. Other than that, not a huge amount of chip movage, which is a word that I've decided to use.
Yeah, it's not a word, but I see what you're saying.
We're just going to finish out this hand, and then in case you're wondering why Mr. Caspar was just heard to chuckle in a chucklesome fashion, we'll be taking an email. As Bluffer gets himself kings and nines. Bit of a messy board, really. Ace-queen's going, oh, why does it always happen? Why is it when I've got ace-queen that's the sort of flop that happens?
Well, it's not a bad flop for ace-queen. I mean, it's better than the turn.
He's not happy. He's not happy with it.
Well, no, you shouldn't be happy with the turn.
Didn't do anything on the flop, did he?
Did you bet out on the flop? I didn't. I was looking at the funny email.
I think maybe we'll avoid that.
Jack King, just calling on the button. Snakey, I advise you to plug Jack King into a multi-way hand assessor and see how well it fares, because let me tell you, Ace Jack and Jack King feels like you want to call with them and see the flop, but my God, when you look at their multi-way stats, you go, ooh, arc, you go.
Do you run from the scene?
It's really weird. You go, this is an awful hand just to call with and see the flop. This hand really has to be played, you know, heads up, because as soon as you get to sort of 4 or 5 players, the number of other random hands against you that could possibly be out there includes hands which play great multi-way, like 8-9 suited, or, you know, pair of 4s.
And it's almost as if actually the worst thing that could happen is if you hit a part of it, because then you're probably going to keep paying into it, and you could be in all sorts of trouble.
Absolutely, you can lose a lot of money. I remember the worst thing I did in a Beat the Presenter here on this show was call with Jack King from the big blind to an early position raise. Well, where are you? Where are you when the flop comes down? Pot odds, schmot odds. You don't know where you are.
Pot odds, schmot odds.
Yes.
I like that.
It's
That's
Jewish.
going to be one of the sayings. If you've got any really awful sayings, like
not Jewish,
pot odds,
it's Hebrew.
schmot odds, then please do keep us posted. Meantime, Mr. Caspar did chuckle a little while ago. None of us really know why, but there's an email from Skin Up who says, "Hi guys, looking forward to the show." Well, I hope you're enjoying it because it's already going. A quick question for Cass. Which one out last Friday night? The exotic lady friend or the £2 added multi-table tournament? Your audience need to know. Keep up the good work. Regards. So what's this all about?
Well, it's because I had a date with a very pretty Oriental girl last Friday night, and then I found out that there was a tournament with 2k added into a field that generally got about 100 people. So that's the 2k being added to 1k, right, which is trebling the pot, which as an overlay is enormous. I mean, what happened was my best mate from school phoned up and asked if I wanted to go for a Thai meal and then drink a lot of alcohol, and both of them seemed to just ebb away into the darkness as choices. And I got some really, really angry phone calls from the girl I stood up. No angry phone calls from P&L players, though, actually. So
really?
Good on them. They're much more reasonable, I find, than your average woman.
Okay. Well, I hope that kind of answers the query. So, but at least you're a man with options.
Can I just say she was completely justified? If I just want to make that perfectly clear, I was actually incredibly contrite. So I'm making light of it now, but at the time, it was a little bit traumatic.
Okay.
We did have a good night, though. Matt and I got very drunk.
Excellent news. Well, if you've got any other gems like that you'd like to get in touch with us here, remember we're here till 2 o'clock in the morning. You can get in touch with us by texting us. Text the word poker followed by your message to 84222, 84222, or email us poker@pokernightlive.co.uk. Any gags, questions, queries, anything perhaps you'd just like to hear me and Caspar talk rubbish about, please do throw us random words like monkey, donkey and cat. Other than that, probably a bit of time for some poker.
Isn't that Orange's new marketing slogan?
What? I've already forgot what I said. Monkeys, donkeys, cat.
Something like that. They've got a price plan for each raccoon.
Each animal.
Yeah.
Okay, well, clearly it's worked because I haven't even noticed that that's their new marketing plan. Other than that, I think we'll go back to that game we were watching just a minute ago, as it involved poker, unlike the other 80% of the programme so far.
I use O2 Max on the Orange network. 1,000 minutes a month, £70.
Really?
It's all right, isn't it?
Do they use any animals, though?
No. No, they're behind on the old...
The percentage of hands played, look at that.
anthropomorphic one.
That's...
Gullo's played 95% of hands? That's pre-flop folds, our producer's telling us. Gullo's folding 95% of times?
That's tight as... He's a crazy boy. I had a good question the other night, actually, Cass, and I know I don't like to, drag emails over, but the question was...
Why not?
I don't like to recycle. I prefer to burn trees. You've got a giraffe,
I'm not gonna have kids, so it doesn't matter to me.
a giraffe, a monkey, and a lemur playing poker. Which one do you fancy more, and why?
Do you mean fancy physically?
No, come on. You understand the rules of the question.
It's not a normal question. A giraffe, a monkey, and a lemur.
Yeah. And while Caspar thinks about that, Mr. Perfect deliberating over his ace-jack. G. Adler was... I'm not too happy with that myself.
What is a lemur?
A lemur is like a small animal, a mammal. Picture a raccoon, and you're probably thereabouts. Okay. But with more dexterous hands, and I think quite big eyes. I'll Google it for you shortly, mate.
Giraffe.
Well, all of a sudden now, G. Adler, Alder, should I say, has gone on the offensive. Hoo-ha, he says.
A monkey and a lemur, is it?
And a giraffe.
A monkey, a lemur, and a giraffe.
Yeah.
Who do I fancy?
Yeah. But obviously why?
Okay.
That's the test of wit.
Is it something to do with the giraffe sticking his neck out?
There's no actual correct answer to this, by the way. It's not a riddle or a well-known...
I thought it was a joke.
No.
Can we move on?
Sorry, did I not make it clear? No, it was just an email. It was an email that said, if there was a poker game with a giraffe, a lemur and a monkey...
Well, a monkey.
But why?
Dr. Tom will tell you later.
Oh, God, not Tom and his baboons.
Flush draw for Bluffer Bruce.
That'll be poker, then.
Betting out here, I would. Sounded like Yoda there, didn't I?
For to re-raise I am.
Around the survivors, a perimeter create. And at that point, I walked out of the cinema.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Which one was that? Was that 2 or 3 of the new batch?
Oh, it was 2.
What was the line again?
Around the survivors, a perimeter create.
Don't dish Yoda. You get lots of angry emails. It's not long before there'll be a Star Wars themed poker site. I can't believe it's not already happened, frankly. If anyone wants to buy that idea off me, I have copyrighted it.
I think you'll find George Lucas could probably do it without the royalties.
Too late.
To you.
Too late. He didn't say it out loud first. I did.
That is how copyright law works, I think you'll find.
Do you know what? I think it is. And everyone heard it. And I'm taping this on Sky Plus. Actually, I might not be. I think there's some football on.
You don't need to tape it. On Sky Plus, it's digital.
Well,
digitally records.
It's a phrase. It's a turn of phrase. Although I've actually ripped out the innards of my Sky. No, actually, I can't lie. No, you're right. There's no tape involved.
Okay, I've got a more salient question for you on the monkey and the lemur.
Okay.
All right.
4.2. That's my answer. I'm sticking with it.
This is an excellent question.
Oh, God. Okay.
Okay. You've got a rock, a fox, and a maniac. In fact, let's say you've got 3 rocks, 3 foxes, and 3 maniacs sitting around a table. Do you understand what I mean by fox?
No, I was going to say, if you're talking in general, then I'm familiar with rocks and foxes. I thought this was like the monkey and the giraffe.
No, it's not.
So these are poker terminology. Actually, would you delve deeper into fox for me?
Okay, fine.
Because this isn't a Phil Hellmuth animal, so I'm not familiar with the...
No, okay. A rock is, let's just start at the beginning. A rock is someone who plays very, very few hands. 10, 12% of hands. Okay?
Roger that.
A maniac is someone who raises almost every hand.
POB.
And a fox is someone who plays slyly. Right, so they're capable of mixing up their play a little bit, raising with the good hands, but introducing an element of what's the word? Variation into their play. Okay. A lot of debate about this, about who will win. The answer is slightly more complex than just picking out one.
Oh.
What's your guess?
My guess is...
I can't remember where I read this, but I read this years ago, and I was just reminded of it on the car on the way to the studio.
My guess is the rock.
Okay.
And the very quick thought process is that I would imagine the rock is just going to watch while the maniacs go mental. The rocks aren't going to take on the mental guys, but the fox, who's obviously trying to get a bit more involved, is likely. I just got visions of the 3 rocks spending most of the beginning period watching the foxes desperately trying to do something with the maniacs, because the maniacs will take each other out very quickly. So I'd imagine very quickly you're down on maniacs.
Not a tournament, actually, it's a cash game.
Oh, it's a cash game?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I need to think about that for a second long then.
Okay.
And what defines winning then? So it's just who's going to ultimately be the most successful?
Who has the higher expectation, yeah. Yeah. I tell you what, let's make it our theme for the night.
I like that.
Okay, theme for the night, folks, let's repeat it. So we've got a 9-player game, let's say, for argument's sake. We've got 3 rocks, 3 foxes and 3 maniacs. Rocks playing 10, 12% of hands, foxes playing about 24% of hands, mixing it up, introducing variation, raising with suited connectors in later position, that kind of thing. And maniacs constantly raising it up, raising, all right? Who's going to win the money? Or is it not that complicated? Are there some nuances to this that you'd like to go into? Give us your predictions. There are no right or wrong answers here. At the end of, or not the end of the show, sort of about midnight, I think, I'll probably give you the answer that was in wherever it was that I read this, can't even remember, many, many years ago, which made me think a lot. And I'm going to give you a little clue around about, it's 10:30 now, so we'll give you the answer to this about 12:30, and I'll give you a clue in about an hour's time.
Yeah, so there are a little bonus Caspar bonanza going on. Don't forget, get in touch with us here with your thoughts on that particular poser. Text us now, 84222. Start your message with the word poker, 84222, or email us in poker@pokernightlive.co.uk. And my thanks, Caspar, that's just out of nowhere. Awesome, giving a bit of shape to the show. So, meantime, while you're thinking about rocks and foxes and lemurs,
yeah, they can answer yours as well if they want to.
Yeah, if you want to come back with the giraffe, but yeah. Anyway,
your animal crap.
My animal, very deep animal. Well, that's more a test of wit, isn't it? We want witty answers to that one. If you want to talk about poker, then that's
Don't say
fine.
that, now you'll win. They all like to think of themselves as witty than they are poker players.
Well, perhaps you'd like to answer both, so that one hand you can prove how clever you are, and on the other, you can show that you do understand poker also.
Win a T-shirt.
Really?
No.
No.
We
Okay.
don't have any.
Sorry about the T-shirt.
It always used to work, though.
Yeah, exactly.
They'd go mental for a T-shirt.
Well, I've got some T-shirts that we're going down the charity shop. Perhaps we could give one of those away.
Do you remember the cup holders?
No.
I'll tell you what, the number of times I've burnt myself on a hot cup.
Are you an idiot?
No, I've never burnt
The
myself
number
on a
of
hot
times
cup.
I've sawn my legs off.
I don't think you need cup holders in this world. I think there's so many things that need to be invented. Cup holder was never one of them.
There are so many things that need to be invented. Would you like to give me 2?
Oh God, my mind's gone a blank.
Yeah, funny that.
All right.
The mind unblankener.
Teapots that don't dribble.
I think they've got that actually sorted.
Radiators that don't need to be bled.
Not familiar with that part of things.
Condoms that go on properly. You asked.
I think we'll leave that at 3, and we'll go back to the game of poker we were enjoying before that happened.
Don't tell me they don't spoil the moment
cut
for
the table.
you.
And if you could bring Caspar's microphone
You
down.
can't bring me down. I have freedom of speech. Everyone knows I believe passionately in it.
Perhaps a teapot-shaped condom
It's just
that doesn't
not-
dribble.
It's just not what you want to do at that moment, is it?
You certainly don't want to bleed it, do you? The radiator.
That was 3 off the top of my head. I mean, if
No,
you want
that's
me to come up
good.
with more, well...
I'll be honest, I think the teapot you'll find, I think teapot technology, I don't know how many brews you and Nick put on in your little cosy Easter weekend.
Mate, the number of teapots I have, they have one job. They have one job, and that is to hold the tea and allow it to come out in an orderly fashion. It's weird that people build teapots that don't do that. It's not like, you know, old teapots, brand new teapots you buy don't do that. How can they not do that? How difficult is it to build something that does that?
Oh, looky, looky. Sorry to draw away from this teapot conversation, but quad jacks for the boy bluffer. We've lost another. Ace queen, full of potential, really, right up to the point that he was absolutely ruined.
It was never full of potential.
It was right at the very beginning.
When? Before the flop?
At the beginning.
Honestly. Number of people who, well, he probably was all in before the flop and I was arguing about teapots. Jugs don't leak. Why don't they make teapots in the same way they make jugs?
Perhaps jugs have a kind of a regulatory body that teapots are lacking.
Well, God, we're hemorrhaging players.
Yep. And Giolda, that seems to have had 900 chips for the last 3 hours, is still in there, plugging away. He called with his 2s and lived.
Good little play that, I think. Bit of money in reserve to create the impression of wanting a call. Takes it down. Good stuff. Monty with the ace-2 on the button. For me, not a good situation. Can't even say in my heart of hearts why. Obviously we can see as ace-jack in the big blind. See, I like that. And again, it comes down to my point of that's where people expect you to steal from. And ace-2, such a vulnerable hand in my opinion.
So you think those medium hands that might be playable, you have to abandon on the big button because people will probably come with you no matter how you play them, because they suspect a move on position?
Yeah, that's exactly what I think.
Whereas I knew that. I was just doing my Gary Lineker bit and trying to get...
No, it's good. I liked it. It was valuable because I'm not always clear. Whereas I'd much rather be raising with Gullo's ace-3 in that position, because if you're older, you're going to call a raise from first position? Not unless you've really got the goods.
I see now why they call you Caspar.
Well, Mark Banning calls me the legend.
Really?
I'm not sure it's the legend, actually. I think it might just be legend.
Do you know what? I've got some really bad news for you.
Yeah.
He did that to me 2 nights running.
That is not true, is it?
Yeah. We probably got it on tape, and I've no idea why he did it, because frankly, I've never done anything legendary. He called me the huge legend.
Do you know, that's like when I found out that my girlfriend was sleeping with another man.
What, Mark Banning?
Take that back.
No, I know you didn't mean that. I was just being glib. Really? Well, that's as bad as you feel now that Mark Banning also calls me the legend.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's like...
The thing is, see, I feel nothing because I really didn't put any credibility behind it anyway, frankly. Give him a spade. Go on. Yes! I have no idea why I cared, but it...
So go on, have another stab at the old Rocks, Foxes, Maniacs conundrum.
I'm going for Maniacs.
Now, what's Patchy doing? He's calling with Queen King. He's heard that Queen King rules in the land of the unraised pot, so he's decided to call with it. Well, not on this occasion. You've got to raise at this stage in the tournament. All these things like Queen King rules in the land of the unraised pot and 7-8 play it in late position and all the rest of it, they're all situationally dependent. And by situation, I don't just mean situation in the hand, could be situation in the tournament, could be situation vis-a-vis a chip stack, could be situation vis-a-vis the other players. Incredibly important in that situation, all you want to be trying to do at these stages in these Premier tournaments is you've got to be taking the blinds. Got to.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get Queen King, you either pass it for various reasons, maybe the big blind is the calling station, will call with any ace, or you've got to raise it. And Patrick's in a good situation, he doesn't have to go all in, but, you know, arguably he should. Arguably you want to make that stack work for you. And Buffer Bruce in a nice situation now. Would you be raising in that situation, or would you be calling and trying to bust G Alba or take as many as possible? Got such a monster heads up, 3 kings. It's a question. I'm not saying anything either way. And again, awful calls. These are awful calls, in my opinion. There's no reason at all to be calling at this stage of a Premier tournament.
Now, can I just ask you, honestly,
yeah,
did you make any moves like that? The ones that you're berating now, did you do any of that in your Easter weekend?
No. Oh, what, in Easter weekend, or do you mean when we were playing Beat the Presenter?
No, in your when you were playing and you said, you know what, I was thinking this isn't what we teach people on the show.
No, definitely, absolutely, categorically
not. You don't slink that far down into the
No, not in this situation. The point is, in this situation, okay, let me tell you something. What we did do at Easter weekend was we read a fantastic article by Alan Goering. Is it Alan Goering? No, he invented the computer, didn't he? Alan Daring?
Titchmarsh?
No, he's very interesting. He's a Wall Street trader who is regarded as the world's most successful part-time player, because he's a full-time Wall Street trader, but he plays in poker tournaments when the big blinds start, when he gets a stack which is more than 200 times the big blinds. He plays in the big tournaments. He's won $5 million over the course of his poker playing career. And Nick and I were lucky enough to see him play once live in the Bellagio, and I loved his play, and Nick didn't like it so much. And he said he thinks, this is amazing, this will blow your mind, he thinks the skill goes out of No Limit Poker when the average stack falls below 80 times the big blind, right? Because he thinks basically No Limit Poker is all about the skill of playing a deep stack. And he goes on to say, the reason why the skill goes out of it is because it becomes too easy to play correctly after that point. And what he means by that is that there becomes a point at which the all-in becomes a requisite move. Okay? That becomes correct play. Well, I tell you what, when you've got 4 big blinds in your stack, 5 big blinds in your stack, 6 big blinds in your stack, and you're in that situation, trust me, it's correct to raise. And there is no situation under which it's correct to call in a first position with Queen 10 in these tournaments. None at all.
I'm hearing your passion.
Fold or raise. I made what I thought was a bad play, which was that I think when the blinds were 160 and 320, it may have been 320, 640, someone called on the button. I was in the small blind and there was a big blind, and I had a reasonable sort of drawing hand. It wasn't even a great drawing hand, and I made a call, and Mark Bannon, exonerated me and said, no, that's okay, because I'm getting a lot of pot odds, and they were pretty passive players. But I say this so many times, when it comes to 3 and 4-handed in these tournaments, it's all about what the other players are going to do. If the other players are aggressive players who will knock each other out, then just take a step back and just maintain your chip level somehow. And if the other players are sitting there passively waiting for someone to go out, then just keep raising. And if you run into a hand, well, so be it. But it's all about the reaction to their play. And no, I would never, ever, ever put in a move like Queen 10. That's not to say, Matt, the answer to your question is, are there some things that I would do that I might berate online? Definitely, if I played perfectly every time, I'd be superhuman and actually non-human. And if and there are some things which I'll do because of the situation in my game, which I may look at on TV and be ignorant of the situation. In other words, the interplay between those two players. And I may have criticised on television when I would have done exactly the same, actually knowing the full context of the situation.
Yeah. Well, during that, we've actually gone through the bubble, and down to heads up, we lost G. Alder that went out on the bubble boy. And now we previously lost Gulo that did make the money, but didn't last too long once he got into the money. And here they are, bluffer blinds at 640, 1280. Not too much play left, that's not just crapshoot time.
And Patrick there is called, I know the blinds are big, but I do think another thing is, for me, that was below the pot committed level. And I'll disagree with some commentators about that. I'm all for being pot committed when the time is right, but I wouldn't have felt pot committed there with Jack 5.
Well, there's a few stats about that tournament we've just been looking at, showing when players fold. Monty, 2% pre-flop fold. You like to get busy with it?
I don't understand those stats.
Well, just read them.
Well, that's saying that these players, surely that's when players, that means Gullo played 94% of hands.
Well, I don't know. Now you've confused me. I've always thought I understood this screen. But
well,
now
it says when players fold, he can't fold 3% pre-flop and 3% post-flop. It doesn't make any sense.
Okay, well, let's move on from that screen. Come back to us here in the studio. Oh, Caspar.
Am I going mad?
No, that's fine. I don't know. I just normally smile at that screen while it's on and just hope that it'll be over soon. Meanwhile, we're going to pick up some emails. We have an email from Carter. Evening, Carter. Thanks very much for your email. Hi, Matt and Kaz. Great show. Just a note to see if my call was correct. You'd like your vindication on something here? Let me paint you a picture. Visualise. I had 10-8 suited and 4 players limped to me in the big blind. Flop comes 7-4-2, 2 clubs, giving me overcards and a flush draw. I put out a bet of 200 into a pot of 400. The next guy folds and the next 2 go all in. The pot is now 4 grand and it's another 900 for me to call. Although I have them covered, it's only by 400. I believe I had the right pot odds to call, but is it right to risk your tournament life on a draw? I missed and A7 took the pot. Is that the right call?
So they limp to in the big blind, so he gets a free flop.
Yep,
doesn't
absolutely,
he?
yeah.
And he puts out a bet of 200 into a pot of 400. I mean, to be honest with you, it's like a lot of these things. Actually, the incorrect play is not the play that we're being asked about. It's like very often players will experience outdraws or bad situations on a flop which they should never have been playing in the first place.
Yes.
The incorrect thing here is in early position in the big blind to bet at a flop as a semi bluff. When you make a play like that with 4 to the flush, the only intention is that people will fold. And I would never do that with 2 players behind me. So that's what got you into the trouble. So it may well be that at that point, the call is correct according to pot odds, and you have to make that decision about whether you want to jeopardise your tournament life on it. And do you know what? I've had so many arguments for and against. I've sat down with Tom, who would argue that if the pot odds dictate it, then you should call it. And I've spent 3 years with Nick, who's put supremacy on staying alive in tournaments. I know he does less so now, but you know, I got to be honest with you, my heads are spinning on that one. But what I would say is, you should never have put yourself in that situation in the first place from the big blind. With 2 players behind you, you just cannot expect both of them to fold with a flush draw and 3 cards out there that you've missed. And so it's very often a check and fold or call type situation if they bet out. You are getting excellent odds from the pot because you're getting more than 4 to 1 with your overcards and your flush draw, but it's not a great flush draw, and it's very likely that one of those 2 has also got a flush draw and they'd be calling with a bigger flush draw. So, be honest with you, I would tend to fold at that point, but that's more of a personal opinion that I've rationalised in that way than a categorically do not call from first position with Queen 10.
Smashing. Well, deep stuff. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, another quick one coming in from Wayne. Hi guys, can you get away from this and what are the chances of it happening? Dealt ace, heart, king, diamond under the gun, make a raise 4 times the big blind.
Good.
Small blind and big blind call. Flop comes king, jack, 9, all hearts. Okay. So he's got the ace of hearts, king, jack, 9. We all check. The turn is the 2 of diamonds. Bet the pot called.
Okay.
River is the 10 of hearts. I raise the pot again knowing that I've got nut flush and only queen of hearts can beat me. Raised and re-raised with me all in. Not only does the big blind show queen of hearts, 2 diamonds, but small blind shows 7, 8 hearts. So my nut flush beaten by 2 better flushes. So all he had was the ace of hearts.
Yeah. I mean,
have I missed this? Sorry.
Well, he's beaten by a straight flush. He's beaten by 2 straight flushes.
Flush,
yeah, he's beaten by 2 straight flushes.
Sorry, yes, you're right.
The fact that only the queen of hearts can beat you in this situation. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say I don't think you've done anything wrong. I think if you play poker like that, what do we say about poker? Before you make the bet or the decision, you say, if I do this 100,000 times, will it yield a profit? And I would say, if you do that 100,000 times, you will make a profit. You get the ace of flush. If someone needs 2 cards out there to beat you in the straight flush, then you are definitely 100%, take the hand to a bank and get a loan, correct. If there's a situation in which just one card, either Queen of Hearts, is necessary to make a straight flush, that's more worrying, but it's exactly the same as in that situation. Once all those cards are out, and you only need one card that can beat you, it's like betting with the King high flush and being beaten with the Ace high flush. The simple fact about this for me is that in a cash game, you're absolutely right to do this. In a tournament, in any kind of tournament that you're going to play of less than $1,000 buy-in, you're right to do this. And the only argument I can see is that if you're in, the early stages of a big, $1,000, $5,000 buy-in tournament where you've got 2 or 3 days to take these decisions, where you are going to find situations and opportunities where you're not going to have to stake your life on having too much less than nuts, where you certainly don't need to call one player and 2 players, both of whom are saying, I believe I have the best hand here. You may well have the best hand, but you may want to say, look, do I want to stake my tournament life on this? Or, as Sklansky says in Tournament Play for Advanced Players, are you going to find opportunities that you can save those chips for, let alone your seat in the tournament, in which you have a bigger edge? An edge is all about probability, it's all about expectation in the long run. You don't know that you've got the best flush on this occasion, but the fact that one player's gone all in and another player has called you gives you a much lower chance of having the best flush than if you were the one that was betting out having been checked to. So I would say, have you done anything seriously wrong as a question of long-term expectation? No. If you had reads on these players, if it was a tournament situation where you had a massive deep stack, as we were talking about earlier on, and you're in that situation, would you call it every time? Probably not. Probably not.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Caspar Berry.
Thank you.
That's a beautiful thing. I've got another email to quickly go through here. A fairly long one here. So this is from Christian Carter. I play in the £10 and £2.50 multi-table tournament at my local card club. I've played 6 of these and reached the final table 3 times. Good stuff, well done. The field is 96 players on tables of 8. Although doing well, I don't seem to be able to make the final push. I come to the table with average chip stack and I never seem to do well. I finished 5th, 7th and 8th. When I came 5th, I played very tight and basically just held on. The other times I played aggressively, and because of the blind structure, I felt committed. In the last situation, for instance, blinds are 1,000, 2,000, and the average stack about 15,000. I had 13.5, and it was the first hand of the final table. I'm in a small blind and have King 10 suited, so I raised to 5,000. The big blind raises another 5, and I foolishly call. I hit top pair and end up an up and down draw. When the board comes Jack, Queen, push all in for my last 3,500. He calls and turns over Ace, King. Turn comes down 10 and I miss my house on the river. Now I know I shouldn't have called the re-raise, but can you help me out with the situation of playing such a stupid blind structure? Now I look back at it and realise that it was actually not too bad for chips, that I was not too bad for chips, considering that the chip leader had more than half the chips in play. Should I have just sat back and been happy with 4th place?
Okay, number of points here. Point number 1. When you're in a tournament, people say you're playing for first. Can you leave that email up, Matt?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
People say you're playing for first place, and you are, but you can't guarantee first place. You play for first place, but it's not a question of being happy with 4th place, but it's a question of sometimes you're going to go out in 4th and you're not going to have done anything wrong. Stu the Kid Unger went out of the World Series in the first hour for 10 years straight. It doesn't mean to say that he was a lousy player. He just had a certain, sometimes he just had bad luck. He had queens that ran into kings, that sort of thing. So it's really, really important to take a long-term perspective of this. And the fact that you've made the final table 3 times out of 6 in 96-player multi-table tournaments, that's already you're doing well above average. I mean, I don't want to dishearten you, but you're already running well in that context anyway. So the fact that you're not placing higher than, 6th, 7th, 8th is no shame. It's such a long game poker, and you've heard Mark Bannon sitting here and saying that the long term for these tournaments of 200-300 fields is sort of like 1 or 2 years if you're playing them live play. So you're not doing anything wrong in this situation. What I'm going to say to you, that said, is that actually the email that you relate is a classic case of playing this small blind too aggressively. Why would you stake half your stack on such a thing in the small blind? So anyway, we'll talk about it more after the break, but that's my thoughts for now.
Okay, well, thanks again. Do keep the emails coming in. We're about to go to a break, and we will be back with more of your emails after this short timeout. Hello there, welcome back to Poker Night Live. It's Matt and Cass with you tonight. Please do get involved with the show. As always, we love to hear all your questions, your emails, your comments, your points of view. There are a number of ways in which you can get in touch with us, and here is but one of them. 'Tis the text. Text poker. The word poker followed by your question or comment to 84222, 84222. You can also email us here in the studio, poker@pokernightlive.co.uk. Which brings me back to, we picked up an email just before the break there from Christian Carter, and Mr. Caspar reeled out a quick answer, and then we had to go to a break. So we're just going to come back to this, which you're just reminding yourself of it, but we had our viewer who went into a tournament feeling he was short chip stacked and getting a bit too crazy with it, and then later on thinking, well, actually, maybe I had a bit more play than I thought. Would you like to pick up the stream?
Yes, so first point I said was you're doing very well, not badly. And whilst you want to win, you've just got to be a bit more relaxed about the fact that you're doing really well. Second thing is, comes back to my point that I was making before about raising on the button, Matt. Raising from the small blind is exactly the same. The reason I say this is because, honestly, so many times when you raise from the small blind, you just inflame the big blind, yeah? And he's right, he shouldn't have called with King 10, but what that means is that it makes you so vulnerable to a re-raise from the big blind. The guy could have 2-3, and you still shouldn't call it, yeah? Unless you've got a really good read on this person and the situation. So, so I don't like raising from the small blind with King 10, and particularly since you've got 13.5k and you're raising 5k, which is like nearly half your stack, with this useless King 10. You know, I would rather re-raise a weak player who makes a a sort of mid to late position raise. I'd rather re-raise him in the next position, and set him all in and make a decision with 8-9 than do something with King 10 in the small blind. I just think that moves that make you vulnerable are bad moves, and that's why. And and I'm in good company with this. TJ does believe you can't steal from the button or cutoff anymore, and he knows a bit about stealing. And I know you hit top pair and you get sucked in and all the rest of it, and that's bad luck. But here's the third point to make, and that is this, is that when you get to the final table's an art in itself, and there are two arts to the final table. Number one is discipline. In other words, it goes back to playing a very patient game. And number two, and one of the principles behind that, is something I've said many, many times now on Poker Night Live, is it comes down to what the other players are doing. And if the other players are busting out, let them. Make, literally one raise every, 5 rounds? So it's 3 rounds, something like that, to try and, keep yourself up there. Just stealing the blinds every now and again. You'll get some valid hands as well. If you raise with aces and everyone folds, that's fine. You just take the blinds. Maintain a nice, tight image. Let other people bust out, because they will, because that was what happens in poker. Unless you're playing in a great tournament with a whole field of great players, they will make mistakes at the final table that will take them out. You are not under pressure when you've got 13k and the blinds are 1 and 2. Well, all right, you're not great, but you can hang on in there with that. And if everyone else is the exact same situation, if the average stack is 15k, let them implode before you do. Let them implode before you do, and then when it gets to four-handed, start to really open up. That's the key. Unless, of course, they're going even more mental at that point and taking themselves out. But it's so important to understand what other players are doing. Now, if they're not, if it's raise and take it, then you can start getting into a raising battle. Then you can start raising from middle position. And then you're going to be in a situation where you may be jeopardising your stack. You may want to go all in at that point for your 13.5 to win that 1 and 2 to really create some power. But I just don't think you should do it from the small blind. I just think that that's jeopardising your stack. There's nothing here for me that says you're doing anything catastrophic and wrong. If you're making the final table 3 times out of 6 in a 96-player multi-table tournament, you're doing something very right. So well done, and keep it up.
Okay, good stuff. Well, I hope that helps. And please do, whenever we give out these bits of advice, we'd love to know if you put them into practice and how it pays off for you, and come back to us and let us know how that progresses for you. I have another email here from WYZZYWIG. Hi, Matt and Cass, enjoying the show. Thanks very much, and thanks very much for your email. I do have a question to do with maniacs. In a cash game, I have no problem with maniacs. Patience and a nice trap works well, but how do you deal with this sort in an online multi-table tournament? You don't have the same time to wait because of the blind structure. The number of times I raise 3 times the big blind with, say, pocket jacks to be re-raised all in, so I rightly believe a fold only for the guy to reveal 7-2 or some other junk. So how do we deal with maniacs in the big multi-table tournaments?
Okay, well, one of the things is that just like having aces cracked 5 times, having a maniac on your table in a multi-table tournament is bad luck. So that's just what it is. It's bad luck. It's not something that you want to have. When you have it, it's going to reduce your expectation in that tournament. A maniac in the early stage of a tournament is not something you want to encounter. I think there are 2 ways to deal with maniacs. Number 1, in a cash game, is you tighten up. and you take them down because you sit there waiting. They're maniacs. They don't care that you're waiting. They're not. If they're clever and smart with it and they're taking note of people's calling and raising frequency, then they're not maniacs, they're just very aggressive, good players. Right? But if they're maniacs, they'll keep on going all in, they'll keep on re-raising you, and you'll wait till you have a pair of kings and you'll crush them. Okay? Or even a pair of jacks and you'll crush them. The second way to deal with maniacs in a tournament is to say, as you said, don't have time to do that. And therefore you've got to go the other way. Many graphs in poker are U-shaped. They're like that, you know. You can play a pair of threes heads up, or you can play them against 5 players. But it's very bad to play them against sort of 3 or 4 players, or 2 to 4 players in between. Same sort of thing with this. Play maniacs very tight in the cash games, or in the tournaments, you've got to loosen up. Why is it bad luck if you get a maniac on the table? Because they're increasing your chances of going out early doors. But the only way to play them is to call with those jacks. When the maniac raises, you call with the jacks, because he can have ace-6, let alone 7-2. And in that situation, okay, fine, you give yourself a 30% chance of going out of the tournament, but hey presto, you know what? You also give yourself a 70% chance to double up. So you've got to see them as your friends, you've got to make a virtue out of necessity, and I think you've got to start loosening up, you've got to start calling them, if you raise with ace-jack, I would call them with ace-jack, you know, because the chances are, it's all about chances, chances are you've got a better hand. What would I say is the exact hand that I would start to call these people with? Do you know what? I haven't done the maths on it, so it comes down to a gut level decision. I probably would be folding ace-9 and ace-8 in that situation. I probably would be folding a pair of 5s and 6s in that situation, but I would probably well be calling with 7s, 8s, 9s, that sort of thing. All hands that if a good solid player re-raised me, if it was an all-in raise, I wouldn't think twice about throwing away.
Okay, so there you go. That's how to take down the maniacs, which brings me nicely to something I'm going to ask Mr. Caspar to read. We've had some emails coming about a little puzzle that Caspar threw out a bit earlier on, which involved maniacs. I'm going to save the emails for now because we want to let a few people have a think about this. But would you be so kind as to just restate what the puzzle is?
Restating the puzzle. Restating the puzzle. The puzzle is going to be restated. Rocks, maniacs, and foxes. We have 3 rocks, 3 players who play 10 to 12% of hands sitting in a cash game. 3 foxes, players who play about 24 to 25% of hands, players who mix it up a bit, players who have some variation in their play, good wily players. And 3 maniacs, players who just go all in, about 70% of the time. Who wins? There's no right or wrong answer to this, but what do you think is going to happen? How do you think rocks and maniacs and foxes would fare against each other? I don't know where I read this. It was in either some book or magazine article many years ago. It popped into my brain on the way driving here today, and I thought it's quite an interesting little conundrum. It basically comes down to your own personal opinions and common sense, although there is an answer that whoever wrote that article put forward, which I personally happen to agree with. And we're about 20 minutes off me giving you the big clue. Okay,
well, so there you are. So don't forget, whatever you think on that, get in touch with us here in the studio. A couple of ways you can do that. You can text us on 84222. Please do remember to start your message with the word poker, 84222, or email poker@pokernightlive.co.uk. And then we're gonna pick up some of your emails. Mr. Caspar is going to disappear now into the Beat the Presenter game.
Oh, I'm doing it.
Yeah, I've decided Caspar. I don't think I can take the heat of being picked apart live by Caspar because he has an outstanding run in our Beat the Presenter game. So you're going to see Caspar in action and we'll pick that game apart. Well, he can pick himself apart, frankly, a bit later on in the show. Right now, though, we are going to jump down and take a look at our featured multi-table tournament. And I'm going to give you some details about that as we watch. So this is our multi-table tournament tonight, and this is actually a private tournament being run by the Pair of Jacks. And Pair of Jacks is a card club run by none other than Nasty Nick Bateman, who came to fame with the one of the first, if not the first, Big Brother shows before it became a crazy bunch of loons. And this is a private game by these guys. We've lost our first guy here on this final table, which we didn't get to see. Busybody with a pair of 9s got blunked out by a pair of 5s that turned into a set. And we have reason to believe that Dog Tenyan, who's currently on the button, we believe this could be Nasty Nick himself. We're about 90% sure on that. So let's just say it is, and then we can be particularly vicious to him. But as I say, we feature some different games on our multi-table tournaments of late. So the Pair of Jacks, this is a $25 buy-in. We're down here on our, we're down to 7 players here. But this is our final table action going on as we see Red Hot pick himself up a draw. Slick Will being happy to bet out with nothing more than the ace 9 out of position. Thunder Fox not got too much to call with unless he knows Slick Will personally and knows him to be a bluffer. And just a recap of all the things going on tonight. So in about 15 minutes' time, we're going to push Mr. Caspar to give us the clue to what he has as an ultimate answer to his Rocks, Foxes and Maniacs conundrum. And when we come back from our half-time break at midnight, we'll be watching the game that Mr. Berry is joining now and see how he gets on. See if he can. I believe he's got seven games in a run. Is it 7 games in a run?
7 cashes in a run.
7 cashes in a run.
First, first. Second, third, first.
So there you are, folks. So he is mighty. And down on the tables, it'll be interesting to see if Slick has got the best position in the house, best hand on the table.
I've got to say something about dogs and cats tonight. I think I was going to say, I was supposed to say dogs rule or cats rule. A lot of woof woofs at the table, though. Do you know what it's about? I don't. No,
do you know what? I sat in a game the other night and people were woof woofing at me and I really don't know what it was about. But as long as everyone's having a good time, let's not forget, poker's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Bet of 90 with the blinds of 15 and 30. Jack 6 really sort of having a little bluff. Can't imagine he's going to fancy the raise back to him. It's a pretty mighty raise, 350, 360 even, should I say. The blinds at 15.30. Shark Shiv is the shortest counter chips. Picks up suited connectors. Going to run into a pair of queens round here. Depends to see if the button will make a move. Calls the raise. Queens for triple X. Under the gun after this action, so needs to make a decisive move to isolate, wave the flag in the air. It's a loose call for me with Jack Queen, and if a queen comes down, wow, isn't that incredible? That's just such an amazing flop. That's such a hideous flop for the queens. It's out of position with an overcard and the 2 jacks, and also the 2 diamonds. $120. Re-raised quite rightly. Getting more than 4 to 1 on his money for the draws. Queens can't like that. I think you have to let those go. You've still got 2.5 grand in front of you. It's just getting worse for you, mate. Now you've got to be scared of so many different things. And if queens weren't scared enough before, they've got to be absolutely scared now. All this time ticking away. Well, you've got to give him credit for continually betting into this. He's out of position, so all the pressure's on him to do so. Has to give that up, but invested far more than he needed to. Queens are great, but out of position with such a scary flop, you've got to be prepared to just accept you haven't got the best of it. Every time he tried to make a bet at it, not only did he meet resistance with the call, but he actually got re-raised. Going to be steaming a little from that, I would imagine. Gets himself suited, weak ace. Hits no part of it on the flop. Shark with his pocket 9s, facing 2 overcards. Slick's bet's not enough to push him off. Thunder Fox, I can't imagine is really going to stick around for 120. Out of position for the next betting round. Nope, does the right thing. That's a good card for Shark. It's lower than his 9s and it also gives him the straight draw. If Jack comes down, gives him more outs. And there's 3 of a kind for Slick, and Shark will probably make this call, yeah, and be quite gutted to see he's been rivered. And we lose another one. Down to 6. And there you see it, right up to the river, had the best of it. Slick gets himself a small pair, and everyone appears to be making it cheap enough for him to limp in. Will he limp in and cross his fingers, or will he take the aggressive? So yeah, got some chips, and he's going to use his stack. Mr. Caspar very quiet over there.
Very quiet.
Very quiet.
How are you doing?
Me? I'm all right, actually. We're just watching it. Myself and the viewers just watching multi-table tournament.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. Lost 2 players. We see Slick Will increase his lead again. That's pretty impressive considering it's only 15.30 on the blinds. That's a sizable lead is stretched out there. Well, the ace falls down for Sidonia. Just makes the minimum bet. Can't really see too many people wanting to get involved. That smells like a bit of an oily trap. But Thunders decide to have a little go at it. The 2 may vaguely scare Sidonia, but Thunder Fox going to need to continue putting the pressure on if he wants to make this bluff believable. Unless he truly thinks he's got the best of it. It's a decent sized bet. Sidonia is not sure and he gives it up, so there you go. That's what we thought there. Thunder Fox made that move and it takes the guts to keep firing bullets at it. And in the end, Sidonia thought, well, you've got more chips than me and there's enough scary business on that board to get rid of me. D'Artagnan just trying to limp him, but Fishhooks is going to have none of it. And another step up in the chip stack for Slick Will. Just to remind you, this is the Pair of Jacks private tournament we're watching, the card club run by Nasty Nick Bateman. It's our 8-seat final table, $25 buy-in, freeze-out tournament here. D'Artagnan is Nasty Nick. I can't even remember what it was he did. I think he just lied to people and manipulated them, but that was in the days when they only put humans in, rather than the freak show it's become. Red hot pawn has the best he thinks, but doesn't. Middle pair with top kicker for triple X. Triple X and red hot pawn, there's a theme, but I wouldn't understand that. Well, he believes his eight's so much that he's going to go all in with it, which is such a big bet to triple X that though he could be ahead, it would be the end of his tournament, so he lives to fight another day. Thunder Fox, pocket nines, doubles the blinds. Let's see if anybody wants to play against him. Triple X. Flops 2 pair. Sets the trap, just a slow play there. Chase it to Thunder, who's going to have a little think about it. Comes out betting. Depends if Triple X is going to flat call this and continue with the trap or just open the box and let him know that he wanted a bet. No, just calls it. Diamond draw and a spade draw. Triple X going to keep this trap up, or is he going to make a bet? 120, 435 in the pot. Thunder Fox having a think. Well, the spade will probably slow down Triple X. If Triple X checks here, interesting to see if Thunder Fox fancies having a push. But no, finds out that actually he managed to get through that reasonably cheaply. It could have been a lot more dangerous. Didn't get too attached to his hand, which is always important when the board presents danger. And don't forget our question tonight, as set by Mr. Caspar, the legend Berry. So many of us on the show now are indeed legends for no good reason. He's in a game featuring rocks, foxes and maniacs Who do you see is coming out winning? Already got a few piling up in the inbox, so join in. Join in the fun. Suited ace on the button, raises it up. Blind's now at 25.50. Good enough to tick him back over £2 grand. Slick Will more than happy to sit back with his big chip stack. Got plenty of time to play with. The blind's this level with such a big lead. And Red Hot's decided to get a jiggy with his sixes. King Queen is going to be out of position if he fancies this. It's another 250. Decides to call and doesn't hit any part of the flop. Out of position now, needs to decide what to do. If he knew what Red Hot had, he'd know that a bet here could, any bet could represent one of those pairing up. All three cards. With your sixes, you do have a 96% chance of seeing overcards, so not really a surprise to see all three of them. Takes it down with a bet. D'Artagnan there, just flat calling out position with King Queen. And then failing to follow it up and represent anything. And quite rightly gets his chips taken away by Red Hot. I think we're meant to not be rooting for D'Artagnan at all, because he is Nasty Nick. D'Artagnan decided what to do with this. He's picked up a little bit of this, but there's diamonds all over the place. Thunder Fox has got a pair that's beaten by two of the cards on the flop, but it's now picked up a flush. Just depends whether he thinks that his seven's going to be strong enough. That's a massive bet from Nick. Nasty Nick. Thunder Fox has him covered. Diamonds are forever. And there goes Nasty Nick. Quite rightly so. Fantastic. Yes, you have been evicted. I'm coming to get you, etc., etc. Did you ever watch Big Brother, Casp? Don't want to interrupt your game, but...
No, I was a massive Big Brother fan, and I remember the first series like it was yesterday. I remember I was in an editing room editing a commercial, and when I got a text from Nick telling me what Nasty Nick had been caught, and they'd had the big confab around the table, and it just like went around the country like wildfire.
Excellent.
I mean, I genuinely believe that was what made it, because it never took off in America in the same way. I think the good people at Endemol owe Nick Bateman a lot of money.
Yeah. But not bothered with it since then? Left other series behind, have you?
No, love it.
Oh, you still love it?
Yeah, no, love it. Yeah, definitely. Didn't see any of this latest Celebrity Big Brother, which apparently was the best ever, of course, because I didn't see a single episode of it because I didn't have a telly. But
and back in our private pair of jacks tournament, so Donia has got nuts draw with the diamonds. Also got a 10 Jack Queen King Ace. So let's be honest, things don't get much better for you there. Quite rightly takes the money. Slick Will still just sitting back. These blinds are eventually going to go up and he won't be able to sit back like this. I'm sure he wishes that the other players had less chips and were forced to get a bit more crazy. But it looks like he's actually going to have to play a hand at some point if he wants to win this one. Bit of limpage from Triple X there, rewarded by another couple of clubs. 1.9. Thunder Fox has now hit himself a pair of sevens, but Triple X, who we know is capable of slow playing stuff, makes a little bet. Thunder Fox doubles it. Triple X could just call this and no, he doesn't want to muck around. Get the chips in there. 350. You want to fight Thunder Fox? Thunder Fox has done this a couple of times. That's a really raggy call. He's got a pair of sevens, which really isn't a great deal in light of that board. 800 in the pot, triple X, making bet 3. Oh no, he's decided to just go all in. There it is, mate. No subtle betting action there. Puts Thunder Fox to the test. It would be half a Thunder Fox chips. No, he gives it up. Well, that was Thunder Fox letting Triple X limp in there. Thunder Fox on the big blind, didn't like his hand, let Triple X limp in, improved to the flush, took his money. And here comes Slick Will. He's back in the game now. He's decided he's had enough sitting back. Pair of fours is good enough for him. Actually still got the best of it. Continuation bet.
We just had another raise from the small blind with a big blind coming over the top of it, going all in. So many times it happens. So many times.
Does it enrage you?
No. That doesn't enrage me.
Just an observation?
No, actually it intrigues me.
Do you think enough people are reading TJ? Because you've mentioned him a lot, so you obviously really rate his stuff. Everyone getting a bit too excited by Doyle Brunson and various other authors?
Well, yeah, I mean, people. I think TJ's one of the greatest players of all time. Actually, I don't think his books are particularly good. God, I haven't got many chips.
Shh.
Yeah, he's not a great writer because he's one of these guys who just talks in anecdotes, you know. And
Yeah.
him and Tom just have a discussion about whether they would call in late position with a small pair. Well, it's a completely meaningless concept. I mean, it depends on so many things that they can't cover in a book. That you know, I hate books like that. Hate them. But Ghost Sapper says, I like sitting next to Caspar, doesn't play the small blinds. There you are, it's his. But TJ is, you know, he's one of the best players of all time. His record is undeniable. And I think some of the concepts that he's like, that is a concept of not stealing from the cutoff. It's not a this is what you should do. It's the problem is that cutoff steals aren't respected enough.
Well, back on our featured multi-table, the Parajacks private tournament going on here. The card club run by Nasty Nick Bateman of Big Brother fame. Slick Will, who's been the chip leader for some while, picks up pocket sixes in the small blind, makes it 150, and in fact, unlike Caspar's game, the small blind raiser is respected. I actually went to a boot camp in Vegas where TJ did one of the classes, and everybody else's class was very specific criteria. This is what Mike Sexton's going to be talking about, heads up, and Mark Surf's going to be talking about this. TJ is just going to sit and chat.
Really?
And it was brilliant. It was still brilliant. He didn't really have any agenda. He just turned up, sat down and started telling stories and kind of proving a point through the gags, and he was the only one that had this free-form session.
Right.
So I can believe what you're saying. I've not read his book, I must say. Well, 4 players, but nobody has a piece of the flop. 2 checks round to Thunder Fox, who decided to get involved. Slick Will, last to act, thinks, well, I'll have a bet just in case I win it here. Hey. Yeah, okay, we're going to take a quick break from this multi-table tournament and just pick up an email that's come in from Kelly Clinton that deserves special attention. So that's the only reason we break up that multi-table tournament is for this awesome email. Tell Matt I haven't got any cats, horses or dogs, but I'll sell him 1 humped camel for a £5. Okay. And do you like raising with 2-6 offsuit? I can find it beat a lot of hands multi-way. I often raise with it and hit massive flops. I'm finding it very hard to take any of those particular elements of the email very seriously. So perhaps I'll just use that as a springboard to invite other viewers to email in or text us with anything they'd like to say, other than that kind of thing. To take your questions seriously, I haven't got room for a camel right now. I've got 3 guinea pigs, a tortoise, a gerbil, 2 rats and a greyhound. And as for the raising with 2/6 offsuit, can't really think of many times I've done it, so I don't think I'm really qualified to answer that question. But do keep us informed. I think we'll go back to the game now. But thanks very much, Kelly. Really not entirely sure where you're coming from, but good luck with that. Do keep us posted. Meantime, Slick has increased his lead. He was there before up at 4.5 grand, and he sat back and waited. Got involved in a few hands. He's got his chips back, and now he's going to go quiet again. Meantime, these guys with only 5,100 on the blinds have got plenty of play. Thunder Fox has picked up a king. Triple X had the draw for the flush with a nut ace, but didn't fancy it. And again, just being aware of where the blinds are and how much chips they've got. They know they're not going to have to go crazy. And isn't this amazing? We've just watched lots of hands where there's very little going on, and all of a sudden you've got a pair of 7s, ace-4 suited, king-queen suited, and a pair of cowboys. We're going to find out what Triple X fancies. Just going to double the blind. Thunder Fox, I hope, gets out of it, unless he just fancies creeping in. Slick will, another 150 to see the flop and be out of position. Does fancy it. Probably Red Hot's going to take the same option. For his own sake, I hope he doesn't raise, was the rest of my sentence, just as he plopped another 600 in, which got re-raised all in. Slick will love the signs that say, oh my God, Slick, what are you doing? I know you got chips, but that's just crazy bonkers. Well, all sorts of stuff here. Red Hot would like to see a diamond. He's only got 145 left. There's 4 grand in the pot, so he's not about to let go of this. Slick will, really gone crazy. And Red Hot rivers his diamond, and we lose another player. We are down to our bubble. 4 players left. And now Red Hot, with that hitting his flush on the river, takes the chip lead. So the bubble, remembering this was a $25 buy-in here, the top prize is $100 for this 8-table, final table job. We got $60 going to second prize and $40 to the third place. So right now, Sidonia is short stacked at the table, but still has more than enough blinds because they've rattled through this 5,100. The blinds are only at, in a backward Yoda sentence forming way, and Sidonia's got plenty of chips to muck around with here. Not with 5-3 though, only to see 2 3s come down, which is painful, but still doesn't mean that it was the wrong move. Queen Jack on the button has the best of it. Thunder, so pleased to see no spades come down, I'm sure. 300's got to be good enough to get rid of Thunder Fox. Thunder, Thunder, Thunder Fox. Ho. Do you like the Thundercats, Caspar?
Yeah, very much.
Good. Red Hot, come on, son. Again, very cagey because the blinds are so low. They don't have to get silly at this stage. 200's good enough to push him off. On the bubble with chips to spare, Slick is certainly going to do nothing unless he has a hand that he knows goes into as a favourite, because he's got so many chips, and these blinds are going to take a while to chew him down. Still baffled by Kelly's email. If anybody knows Kelly and would like to help us out, please do get in touch. As we see Red go up with Ace 3, hits the 3, which is the best of it, unbelievably. Keeps firing chips. Could well win this just by that. Seen some quite loose calls from these guys actually, but not in this hand. Don't forget also, while we're looking at the multi-table tournaments, Sunday nights here on Poker Night Live, we are picking up the Poker Bowl qualifiers. We have a number of heats, the top 10 of which will go through to the semi-finals, the winners of which will end up in the Poker Bowl studios for a live filmed final. And that's Sunday nights. You can see those here. Some good stuff. And meanwhile, neither of these guys really with too much to scream about pre-flop, but red hot. Well, the bet from Slick Will was scary enough to push him off his queen. Everyone praying for Cydonia to get involved in a pot and do badly. The vicious, vicious act of bubble hatred. Well, it was lucky for Thunder that he didn't really hit anything here. Under the gun, 450 in the pot. Checks round to Slick, who might fancy sweetening the pot. 600, no action for you kings, I'm afraid, but now Slick again pushing forward with this lead, 5,000 now. 3-9 offsuit, clearly not in his list of hands to be played. Thunderfox with ace-jack, just going to limp in, is decided here. He's got Cydonia dominated. If Cydonia thinks, no, you don't limp in, I've seen what happens when you limp in. But Thunderfox can make a bet of this to at least find out where he is, and we'll probably find out that he's winning. Minimum bet from Thunder. Picks up the pot. These blinds are going to chunk up soon, and then people will no longer have their 10 times the big blind safety net. Cydonia gets rewarded with the kings. And amazingly, 10, Jack, Queen, King, Ace for Slick Will, who flopped the straight. And Cydonia, everyone was waiting for the hands to crash, bubbles out, and now we have our money winners. There you see, flopped a great hand, kings against 10, Jack. 10, Jack hits the straight on the flop. Ain't poker a beautiful thing? So we have third prize here is going to be $40. Second is $60. Top prize $100 here. Let the poker ballet begin. Well, that's a hell of a bunch of hands. 9-2 plays 9-6. It's like Clash of the Titans out there. I'm not sure which part, the bit where they cut off Medusa's head. Perhaps. 7-9 in the big blind. These boys are going to have to start getting imaginative with the betting, because waiting for the hands, right now it seems like the deck has gone a bit cold. Cydonia right now off somewhere crying about having those kings cracked. Did have possibilities. Could have made a full house. Didn't happen. Red Hot decides he's had enough of all this sneaking around. Bring on the stormtroopers, he says. Ace-10, entirely playable given the hands that have been coming out for the last few minutes. Just doubles the bet. Slick Will might call just because he's got the chips, and if you hit the flop, who knows what action you get. As it goes, Thunderfox hits it. Slick doesn't get any part of it, so is unlikely to continue if Thunder wants to take a bet at this. Indeed, he takes it down. Blinds have plonked up to 75, 150. These guys have still got plenty of action here, though. 7-8 gets raised up by 4-5 offsuit in the small blind. They both get a piece of that. Red Hot has the better flush draw and also the middle pair. Slick's going to fire at it. He's hit bottom pair and he's also got a piece of the draw. Red Hot quite happy to just say, I think I got the best of it. And he wouldn't be wrong. Slick gonna hide back under his rock. King Jack's just going to limp in and hits the flop. But again, we always say it's not about the cards, it's about the situations. And every time one of these boys actually makes a hand, they never find themselves up against another player that wants to put any chips in. A bit like the pair of kings running into the 10 Jack, likely to get action. But with some of these hands, it's really a case of everyone seems to have gone into limp-in mode, and if they're not hitting the flop, they're not even taking a push at it. Well, red once again, he seems to forever be hitting these flush draws. And even though he's not got the chip lead, he's certainly going to be dominating those marvellous graphs of ours that show who gets busy. He's been playing when he has the hands, but he's also been getting involved when he's not really got the hands. Playing on the draws. Thunder limps in out of position. Well, Thunder's actually got him beat, but the bet coming from the chip leader. Another choice selection of hands for our boys here in the pair of Jacks private tourney. Nasty Nick Bateman of Big Brother fame, bust out before the bubble. We're down to our money winners. And once again, no one with a decent hand, and nobody even hits any part of it. Only 300 in the pot's probably not going to take too much of a bet here from Slick if he wants to just take it down now. The guys, I would suggest playing a bit transparently. They limp in and then just check. Thunder has a bit of a draw for the straight here. Ace or a 9 is good enough to bet out. Fair dues to your squire. Chasing Red Hot, who hit a couple of hands in a row. But for the blinds at 75, 150, there's not really too much pressure on anybody with the chips here. 10 King's good. The Ace 8 might even be good enough to call. He does. Well, a Queen would give Thunder the straight, but it's only going to be spoiled by the fact there's also the flush draw out there. He might fancy a positional bet just because everyone else has checked. He does. 300 goes out there. Slick Will's hit the 6, but doesn't fancy paying for it. Wants to keep hold of that lead. Knows that he's got so much time. It's a bit like the email we had a bit earlier on from somebody who considered themselves short stack, but actually didn't need to start going all in. And these guys are clearly more than aware that there's no pressure on them to play cards they don't want to play. Thunder Fox picks up another set of blinds. Caspar's so quiet. It's quite eerie here in the Coconut Life hangar.
Holwick's making me laugh.
Wowie, and there you go, my trademark wowie, as Slick Will, who managed to flop the straight that took out Sidonia, now manages to flop the flush. Unfortunately for him, once again, situation's not cards. Thunder Fox doesn't have anything. He started off with a nice suited connector grouping. Well, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He doesn't need the straight, but just conversationally, he's made it anyway. Once again, Thunder Fox just hasn't hit anything. If Slick makes a move, I can't believe that Thunder Fox is going to pay off anything. Any pair, the straight, the flush. Well, he's decided to have a push at it, which is fair dues. Slick could have been stealing. Slick says, I'm not stealing, mate. Or if you fancy it, come and have a go if you think you're hard enough. Which is what 2,550 chips equates to. King, Queen for Slick. Red Hot fancies making a move. It's not getting any better. Slick has picked up the nuts draw. Fair old size bet that from Slick, but he does push his lead forward. It's slow action, but they are gradually creeping ahead here. Red Hot had a much bigger stack a little while back, and already that's disappearing. Thunder Fox is almost static on chips. He always seems to be about the same place. Slick has just hit a couple of big flops.
Sorry, Standards has made me laugh.
Is that?
I can't tell you what he said.
Oh. The beauty of the chat box. Well, Thunder's picked up an open-ended straight draw. Slick has got the 10. Thunder probably going to call this 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Bang. There you go, mate. Has hit the straight. No mucking around, bets out. That's a decent pot there. And just as I was picturing Thunder's chips dwindling, is back over 2 grand. Blind still only 75, 150. Well, people stop amusing Caspar, please. I'm feeling really left out. An amazing flop. That's just crazy flop here. The 9 for Thunder Fox is just so totally scared off by the board, but he decides to just put the bet out. He doesn't think Red Hot's got any part of it, or he would have bet from the flop. And for the first time in a long while, actually overtakes Red Hot, who is the shortest stacked, but by no means short stacked. 9-10 for Slick. Red Hot's going to get out of it. Thunder Fox 7-9 offsuit. I mean, they have suffered a real drought of quality hands, but the 3-handed, they're all in the money, but they really want to be fighting for that top spot, so they're not going to get stupid. 10 king could be good. But of course I can see everybody's cards, so I would say that. And don't forget, when we come back from the next break we take, we will be watching Mr. Caspar Berry in action on the regular Beat the Presenter feature that he has been involved in, with a very vibrant chat box. We'll also catch the end of this tournament, because these boys are not going anywhere for a while with these chip stacks and these splines. We've got loads going on. We're also going to continue with Mr. Caspar's Rock Fox Maniac game.
Are we going to do that in emails before the end of the show? Or is this...
Yeah, I think we'll pick that up after the break. Okay. We'll take some of these guys. Just going to follow one more hand here with these guys. Okay, Slick's back over 7 grand, so there we are. We're going to pick that little private tournament up again a bit later on. We're shortly going to a break, after which we're going to pick up Caspar's Beat the Presenter game. We're going to continue with our Rocks, Foxes and Maniacs question. Don't forget, we encourage you, get in touch with the show. There are a number of ways you can do it. Here is our text number. Text 84222 and please put the word poker in at the very beginning, followed by whatever question you would like. We are happy to have any questions, any subjects you'd like to hear discussed, any deep, meaningful things you'd like to throw at Caspar, who's totally absorbed in his game right now. I take it it's going well by how quiet you are.
This is the second.
Well, that face says it all, but we'll find out later on. So please don't go away. We're going to take a short break, and then we'll be back with more poker right after this. Hello there, welcome back to Poker Night Live. It's Matt and Cass with you tonight till 2 o'clock. Still plenty of action to come. We've still got Beat the Presenter, we've got a load of emails. You guys have been very busy. We've got the end of our little special private tournament we've been watching. And also we're going to pick up Caspar's Beat the Presenter game as well. First of all, a quick reminder about how you can get in touch with us here. We do welcome all of your emails and your texts, so please do keep us busy tonight. You can get in touch with us by texting us on 84222. Remember to text with the word poker at the beginning of your message and then whatever you want to say. You can also email us, as always, poker@pokernightlive.co.uk. Now, a bit earlier on tonight, Caspar posed us the question about if you had a game with 3 rocks, 3 maniacs and 3 foxes, who would come out the winner? We've had some people want to play this game with us.
Don't read that one.
Don't read this one?
Not that one.
Right, okay.
Not yet.
Not yet, okay. Okay, so this is from Jules. Thanks very much for your email, Jules. Caspar, rocks, foxes and maniacs. Surely the fox has a better chance. The maniac will have to be lucky, but the fox with a monster hand should be able to trap a rock who has good hand.
Yeah, I think that's a good answer.
Yeah? You happy with that?
Definitely. Yeah. But who does Jules come down in favour of any one particular person or not?
Well, he says the fox, but he says the fox with the monster hand should be able to trap a rock who has a good hand. It's not really conclusive.
No.
It's just, I think, his views on the situation.
I'll be honest with you, my answer isn't conclusive either. So.
Okay, but you don't want me to go for the other one?
Not just yet.
Now, you were going to give a clue, you promised a bit
well, the other
on.
one actually contains the clue. The other one is the answer that I know.
Yeah, oh, okay,
so.
we're going to avoid that, but what we're going to do is we're actually going to go to an email from Dan in Essex, who was talking about strategies to play against maniacs, which was obviously part of the question, was talking about maniacs. I use a particular strategy when playing against maniacs, and it is this. I'm on their left. Well, you can't always select that, but we'll give you that. That's fine.
Well, you can in a cash game. I mean, not in a tournament, but you can decide in a cash game to wait until you are on their left.
Okay, I'll give you that. I just thought I'd mention it. I didn't realise he was listening, otherwise I wouldn't have said anything. Anyway, I was on there. I'm on their left. I re-raise when I have a decent hand, a decent heads-up hand, and try to get everyone else to fold, trying to isolate him. Fair Deuce is about to give me the other side of the story. If I'm on his right, I just check and wait for an opportunity when he is raised and everybody else is folded. Again, only if I have a good heads-up hand. So that's how he's classifying this, is if it's good heads-up hand, that's when he'll make his move. I think the best strategy is to isolate maniacs and make them pay when they don't. But you do have a good heads-up hand. What do you think? So what do we think to this little strategy here? Have you managed to follow me on this?
First thing I think is what's interesting is that in the olden days, you used to have to, when there was only one game in town, you used to actually have to, work out where you were going to sit in relation to maniacs, otherwise you went home. Now on the internet, you don't have to play on a table that you don't want to play on. You just go to a different table. So strategies like that sort of had their day, really. You don't need to position yourself in relation to the maniacs.
But of course, for tournaments, you don't have that luxury, do you?
No, that's right. So, but you don't have the luxury of choosing the chair. So, the best strategy is to isolate maniacs and make them play when they don't. But you have a good hand. Yeah, that's not bad. Not bad, definitely. We've never done a conclusive show on how to play maniacs yet, so that's one for the calendar.
Okay, well, I'm going to chuck a very easy one. This is one we get a lot, but it's always worth addressing. So this is an email from Gary. Again, thank you for getting in touch. Hi, guys. Just started out in Texas No Limit Hold'em and enjoying playing a few single-table tournaments. Can you recommend a few books for online beginners, a couple of must-read books you would consider for single-table tournaments? Mr. Berry.
For single-table tournaments?
Yes.
A couple of must-read books for beginners. What do you think? I'm trying to play a tournament.
May as well just be on my own here. One that we always talk about is Harrington. Harrington on Hold'em has some great tournament tips. There's lots out there. There's one actually that, everyone always says Super System, which is a kind of a must-read to be honest. If you're going to take Hold'em seriously, you will hear lots and lots of people referring to Doyle Brunson's Super System and Super System 2. One reasonably new book that I've quoted a couple of times that I enjoyed was one by Eric Lindgren that came out a few months back called something like Making the Final Table. And that is very specifically about tournaments. It's more to do with the multi-table tournaments, but to be honest, a lot of the tournament theory in that is very good, and that's one that I throw out there because we don't seem to often mention anything other than Sklansky and the Dan Harrington. But Dan Harrington is probably the place to start. That's the one that generally gets a good tip-off by the experts. Thank you very much for that. I'm really tempted to throw a really difficult one at you just while you're trying to concentrate.
No, do it. We're only three-handed. It plays itself.
Oh, okay. Are you sure? No, I won't do that because that's just being mean. What we're going to do is we're going to go back down to that multi-table tournament we were looking at, the private Pair of Jacks Clubs tournament, which was down to the last few players. And then we're going to come back and check out Caspar's game. So let's go back and have a look at that table now. Any minute now. Don't worry. Hi, I'm Matt. How you doing? Anyway, while I'm here, I'd like to do for you my impersonation of an eagle. No, we'll go back to the table. Well, Thunder. Thunder's all in, quickly. It's okay. There is Thunder. He's gone all in. He's hit the queen on the flop, but sadly, Slick Will has got him out kickered. And the 6 has come down. And wow, and we see our third place. We just jump in time there to see our third place finisher. Picks up $40 for his troubles. And we're down to heads up, and these boys pretty evenly matched in chips. Blinds only 100 and 200. These boys are going to have to start getting a bit more prepared to play beyond what you might classify as premium hands. King, Jack is a juicy looking board, but not if you've not got any single part of it. The lads are going to swap. Well, that's not the worst flop in the world that Red Hot will ever get. For his A7, a bet again. Slick just hasn't got any part of it, and unless he decides to make a bluff at this, which he does, Red Hot's good to get some chips that really he probably shouldn't have had any real right to pick up. Oh, Slick is just probably getting bored of this, but no, he's decided that in fact he is ruined here. And that's a big pot for 100, 200 blinds. That was really Slick having a go. King 8, Queen 3. Well, would make Slick happy. Four, 7 is not too shabby with the diamonds, I guess. Gonna call it 6, 7, 8. Well, there's a 7 on top. He was betting because of the draw, and it actually got a little bit better. It's a strong move from Pawn, but he might find that Slick goes, well, do you know what? I got $2,000 left. No, okay. He's got $2,000 left, and he thinks he's going to carry on with that. Red Hot has got a big old lead over Slick now. Slick, who's, let's be honest, for most of the time we've watched, he's been a fairly major chip leader there, but maybe a little bit of impatience. Sometimes you just want it to be over. He's hit a big piece of this. Red Hot has got the open-ended. He might fancy this is good enough. Both of them might fancy this is good enough. Red Hot has got him well covered, and he has options here. He's not hit any part of it, but he has options. He has outs, as my friend who loses lots of poker would say. That isn't going to be one of the nice ones. Nor will that be. And all of a sudden, Slick Will's back in the game. That was a big pot there for Slick. Not necessarily the hand you want to try and continue your momentum with.
How are they doing?
Well, they're doing good. Slick down here in seat number 6 has been the chip leader throughout this table, but right now he seems to be getting a bit impatient. If I had to label him, he seems to have just made a few raises that have been re-raised and is still called and not improved, and he's handed a lot of chips to Red Hot. But a minute ago, Red Hot had best part of $9,000, just over $9,000 in fact. Red Hot still got the best of this, but it's going to be hard to believe that in light of that bet on top of that board. He's gone with it.
Yes.
Again,
he's put an enormous amount into a pot with very little.
Exactly, and it's only 800 into 5/8 pot. Why did he believe it? In the face of a queen and a 10 and a 4 and a 5, he thought it was worth fighting, but that's 7 at the end.
Ooh, well, he could have a 7?
Well, the guy might have a pair bigger than his 2.
God, it's a pair of 2s. How do you play a pair of 2? Unless you go all in before the flop, how on earth do you play a pair of 2s? You're going to have 3 overcards due on the flop. Yeah. So how do you play it?
And I don't understand that. Whatever logic it is that's driving you to keep investing in this pot, past the flop, past the turn, why is it the river? What is it about
no,
that?
800 on the river, yeah. I was going for the trips.
With 5 grand in the pot. If you liked it after the flop and you liked it after the turn, well, let's be honest, you just like it.
Yeah, mate, I'm with you 100%. 100%.
Slick. So now back as chip leader is not about to give this up too easy. But blind's only 100 and 200. This could go on for months.
Well, it's a shame that we have to leave that.
Well, we are going to leave that, I'm afraid, Caspar. And the reason we're going to leave that is because I understand that you have some sexy beat the presenter action to present, therefore, to us. 2 tournaments. 2 tournaments. Not going to tell you what happens. Very exciting. Suffice to say... No, let's not suffice to say anything. Oh, it's such a tease. OK, well...
We have a quick Stone Rock Fox Maniacs. I gave the clue away there. The clue is stone, paper, scissors.
Oh. Aha! OK, is that it? That's what we get?
Well, it's pretty self-explanatory after that, isn't it?
OK, so don't forget, folks, it's the whole Rock, Maniacs, Fox, who's going to come out the best. Get in touch with us here. But while you're thinking about that, why not relax and enjoy watching Caspar bury free poker? Let's have a look now at Caspar's first game.
Where am I?
Where are you? You don't appear to be playing, Caspar.
Probably on a different table, I reckon, guys.
Yeah.
Let's have an email, quick, while they sort that out.
Right. OK, well, let me come back to an email, because it's all going so swimmingly. Let's plot one of the emails in there. OK, this is an email from Stephen, or perhaps Stefan. Who knows?
Let's have a Rock Fox's Maniacs email.
Well,
you're supposed to line them up.
I did, but
you
told me not to read them out.
You've got one job in seat number 1.
All right, OK. No, do you know what? No, that's fine. Don't worry about me or my feelings. You just sit out for like an hour and a half, having a lovely time playing poker. I'll just see what else I can do. OK, this is from Bob. This is a trick question that goes in circles, like paper, scissors, stone, which is why you didn't want to read out.
Or Ching Chang Wallet.
Even though it was nice for you to give the clue and give people about 30 seconds to react to it. Well done,
this
everyone.
This is the email that I didn't want you to read out earlier on.
Oh, now I can read it. OK.
Yeah, no, I can read it out.
So, Rocks will beat Maniacs.
Yep.
Maniacs will beat Foxes.
Yep.
Foxes will beat Rocks.
Yep.
The house wins, the rake.
Who's the rake?
I read this in an old article called the Poker Circle of Profit. So this is it?
So I must have read it in an article too. I don't remember it being called Poker Circle of Profit. I thought it was in a book, but there we are. I must have read it in my card player days when I read it religiously every single fortnight. That's what it said. Rocks will beat Maniacs, Maniacs will beat Foxes, and Foxes will beat Rocks. That's not the right answer, folks. That's just the answer that's in the article. The right answer is whatever you can argue justifiably. Obviously, Rocks, Maniacs, and Foxes don't exist in real life. People have nuances and lots of different textures, and people will change their style actually according to the situation, the player they're playing against, and my old favourite, the recent 2 or 3 hand history between those 2 players. But it's very interesting to think that Rocks will beat Maniacs, so if you want to beat a Maniac, that's the way to do it. It's just tighten right up. Maniacs will beat Foxes, because Foxes can't deal with someone going all in over the top of them, so if you're being beaten by a Maniac, it's likely you're a Fox, and you're playing about 22 to 24% of hands, because Rocks don't worry about it. Rocks will only play when they've got massive edges over those Maniacs. But Foxes will beat Rocks. Because Rocks can't deal with someone constantly, manoeuvring and being slippery against them.
Which kind of augments what one of the I've forgotten your name. I do apologise. Somebody just recently sent in an email tonight. It was while you were busy, and he was saying that how he deals with Maniacs is the whole wait for a hand, a good heads-up hand when he's to the left of him, to the right of him. So I guess that's the whole thing. Is it's the only way to take out Maniac is in a one-to-one situation when you're acting like a rock, because then you're unlikely to be against him with anything other than a powerful, good chance of winning hand.
Absolutely.
OK, well, that's good stuff. Thanks Thanks again, Bob. If people want to continue this little conversation, even though I'm very disappointed to find after 2.25 hours there isn't actually an answer to this riddle.
Well, that is the answer, but it's not. I said there wasn't a correct answer.
Yeah, but I thought there'd be at least a sort of a...
It's not like, ta-da, there you are, that's poker.
Well, that's no sort of a quiz, is it? How is anybody going to win a T-shirt?
They weren't going to win a T-shirt.
Mumbling. He's losing it. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'm glad to report that we can now relax and enjoy one of Mr. Caspar Berry's Beat the Presenter games. Let's go and take a look at that right now.
The first of two.
The first of two. It's a two-part series stretched out over the space of a night. There's no waiting.
There I am. Look, there I am.
That'll be you, Caspar.
Now, this is $50. We start off with $1,200. And I think I give a pretty nigh-perfect textbook example of how to lose half of that with nothing.
Well, and I'm sure you did that deliberately. Probably.
Just literally give myself a handicap because it was becoming too easy. That's exactly what it was. And I do it very well, very well. So let's watch how it's done.
So this was after me declaring that as you were the Beat the Presenter god with 7 cash-ins in a row.
Yeah.
Come and have a go if you think you're hard enough, as I believe the chant I put out.
I'll be honest with you, Matt. Complacency had set in somewhat.
And is there room for complacency in poker?
There is no room for complacency in poker, Matt. I'm very glad you brought that up because there really is no room for complacency in poker.
And I do apologise to Stephen or Stefan, who I hinted we were about to give him
we'll
his
come to him
email.
later.
We're going to come to you.
It's not like we've
don't
ruined
you
his
fear.
night or anything. We'll give him a T-shirt if he likes.
Stop promising people T-shirts. We don't have any.
I'm suggesting.
Well, don't suggest.
So, Alder has the 4 to the straight. Alan has 4 to the inside straight. Mr. Perfect has nothing to speak of but a free ride in the big blind. And Alder bets out. And the other guys fold, I'm sure. Or does Alan? Does he decide to call a 10 to 1 shot to try and bust him? No, he does not. Finally, we get to the second hand. And I get an ace, and then a 3. And I'm happy to fold that. Not much of anything for anyone. Mr. Perfect, in the small blind with ace 3, decides to make it up. Nothing wrong with that. Flop comes down with a 9. And does he bet out? He certainly takes his time over it.
Well, that's because you're also busy chatting each other up, if I'm not wrong.
Well, there was a lot of chat going on. Mr. Perfect, I have no compunction in lambasting during this commentary. I'm going to abuse my position because of a little bit of chat that he gave me later on in the tournament, which I will tell you at the appropriate time.
Is there ever going to be an appropriate time?
There is going to be an appropriate time. Trust me,
Okay,
it's very much an appropriate time to relay this story. But he will pay, that's all I'm saying. So there I am with a pair of 8s.
That's a very good hand.
And a smooth call in first position. Because we're cheap at this time, so no point raising it up. Don't want to take the blinds, don't want someone to come over the top of me, just call with a pair of 8s. Nappy with Jack 10 suited, nice situation. Puts in a raise, don't mind that at all. Less keen on Alder's call, but still don't mind it. I would rather we had sort of 2,500 chips to make calls like that. You need to be a bit more deep stacked to get the bigger implied odds, but it's okay. And Alan there, Alan folds his ace-jack. That's interesting. Listening to what I said earlier on about the old, what was I talking about earlier on?
Ace-jacks, I think.
Yeah, ace-jack multi-way doesn't play well. He says, I'm listening to Cass, I'm going to fold my ace-jack. Good, excellent. So I check, and Nap Hands checks as well, which is interesting. So then the turn comes down, and I think, well, I might be best here if no one's got a 10, because I've got a little pair in my hands. If they've just got big cards, or maybe a smaller pair than 8s and 10s. So I bet out, Nap Hands calls me, and Alder must fold here, but he calls. I'm not sure why, what he's waiting for. That's very weird. But there we go, check on the river, king comes down, none of us have anything. I lose. Fine, you know, I don't feel at all dissatisfied with that. There were some that would say I should have bet out on the flop, but...
But did the raise from Nafan's not put you off the 8s?
No, what, calling with those 8s? At that stage, no. Not for me personally.
Or just because of the earliness of the tournament and the cost of the blinds?
Yes, absolutely, and... well, actually, exactly, ironically, exactly what I cited in the TJ Tom McAvoy book, which is that calling with a small pair at that stage early on, we do get big implied odds with a small pair. I'm You know, if the flop had come that and he'd bet out on the flop, I would have folded immediately, even with just one overcard there. Because not only could he have 10, king 10, ace 10, he could have pair of jacks, pair of nines, pair of tens, pair of queens, kings, aces. Yeah, so I'm going to fold, and that's why I didn't bet. I make probably a bad continuation bet quite soon, but later on in this tournament. I've got jack 6 here in the small blind. Oh, that was an awful call. I don't know why I called in the small blind.
I was just about to say, no, that goes against what you were telling us about, the small blind play there.
No. What I'm saying about the small, I'm not justifying it, by the way, but what I'm saying about the small blind play is when you raise in the small blind, you give the big blind the opportunity to bully you. Okay. That's a different thing. But that is different, but awful in a different way. But, you know, I'm just sitting there going, oh, it's only going to cost me 10, and so I just throw it in.
But that's exactly what we say not to do.
I know, I realise that.
God, I mean, what are you thinking?
Once again, the only argument for it is it's so early in the tournament, and I will sometimes call on the button in this stage in the tournament with 7-3 offsuit. Yeah,
no, I'm with you. I've started doing much more of that recently because I realise that a number of times I'll throw away something that really wouldn't cost me a lot, and I know you can say that enough times that cumulatively it does cost you a lot. But there are certain situations where I have a reasonable hand, and I throw it away, and it really wouldn't be much of an investment, and I hit it in some way.
Yeah.
And I know that that's really kind of a double-edged sword of danger.
Yeah.
But I would say in the early level of a tournament, when it's really pretty cheap to just have a couple of spectators, I'm quite happy to dedicate a percentage of my stack to just seeing if I get lucky.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
On the proviso of letting it go if you don't, and if it becomes expensive.
Well, yes, except I would rephrase it. It's not a question of seeing you get lucky, it's seeing whether the time where you'll hit a freakish hand, you will be paid off. Because what I find is that players don't play, as James Browning recommends in the early stages of tournaments, is that they will stake their entire stack on top pair in the early stages of tournaments when it's completely inappropriate to do so. And if you've played a hand which can hit 2 pair in that situation, then you can bust people and gain huge implied odds on that call for 10 or call for 20 pre-flop. So that's why I do it in the early stages of a tournament, and I've said this many, many times, and I say it again, with the Prima structure being so fast, you have to give yourself some sort of chance to double up and maximise the effect of your skill in a tournament, because it so quickly gets to the stage where something I didn't conclude for early on, as Alan Goering, whatever he was saying, whatever his name is, was saying, it so quickly becomes easy for everyone to play correctly. Now, here I raise with 5-7, and do you want to know why I do this?
I do.
Okay, we'll see how it happens. The ace comes down. This is the bad bet. Because I've been called on the button, there's such a good chance that this guy's got an 8, I should check and fold here, right? And I make a silly continuation bet, and that's really what cost me. So now all of a sudden I've spent 140 on this hand, but there is a reason why I did it, and I'll tell you why in a minute. So now I fold, you know. At least I've asked the question, I've got an answer, and I fold it, all right? The reason I did it is because I've had a real problem in the early stage, well, not a problem, I've had a situation in the early stages of playing these tournaments where everyone folds to my raises, which is nice, because you don't always have a hand, but it's bad because my good hands just weren't paying off at all. Now I've got a situation, I'm playing this $50 tournament where a lot of people are calling my raises, right? Well, one of the things you don't want in poker, in my opinion, is mixed messages. In other words, you want the whole table to think the same thing of you, okay? So what I fully intend to do is raise with that 5-7, hopefully just get away with a steal in this early stage of the tournament, right? And show it. Yeah. Okay, I wanted to show it because I wanted all the table to go, right, Caspar's playing this $50 table and he's going to play a bit tricksy. Okay, and if I could do that, then I would have tightened up. And in that one mode, because I know everyone's watching me, which is a lovely situation to be in poker, by the way. It's fantastic to have all the attention because you know that everyone sees everything you do. Right? Straight flush draw for Nap hands here, 5, 6, 7, 8, and correctly he bets into it. It's a semi-bluff, but it's got so many a nice semi-bluff to have, and it can make a lot of money if you make it, particularly if someone makes the ace or king high flush.
Of course, he's already got the straight in there as well.
That's right. But doesn't. That's absolutely right. Sorry, I didn't see that. Doesn't. I'm surprised. Very surprised. Ghost Sapper paid him off there. I'm not sure what he was drawing to. I suppose he would say it was getting 5 to 1 his money. He could hit a king or jack to bust, or not bust Nap hands, but take some money off. Okay, so in that situation, I wanted to raise, take it, show people, and hey presto, just get an image, and everyone would
Yeah.
go, right, so we need to call Caspar down a bit here.
Yeah.
Because it's only cost me 60 to do that,
Yep,
and it
yep,
would have had a
yep.
massive effect, right? And that is like marketing. It's buying an image.
Yeah.
And it went wrong because the guy to my left on the button calls me, an ace comes down, and I stupidly bet it. What I should have said was, not only has he called me, an ace has come down, I haven't hit it, I've missed in every way, this is a failed attempt at advertising, just check and fold, Caspar.
Yeah.
Okay, and so my mistake was spending another 80 on it. The 60 I can live with, the 80 I can't. So cumulatively, I'm now down, I'm down quite a lot. I'm down 320 in this tournament now, which is not a good situation to be in because these blinds go up so quickly, and if I'm down 320, that means my 320 chips are scattered all over the table, so I'm down, much more than that.
Yeah.
Effectively and relatively.
And this is grim for Ghost Zapper.
It is. It's a bad situation.
And that 7 on the river is just not going to help. At least he checks out. It doesn't. Yeah. He kind of got away from that, really, didn't he?
He did. He did well.
It's not a hand that anybody can pretend to find easy to slow down on. But
no, not at all. I mean, I wouldn't have. He played it better than I would have done there.
Now, just while you're out the hand, because I like to answer people's questions fully, I was asked earlier on, but you were busy about tournament book.
Oh,
Any
yes,
particular tournament book you would highlight?
Well, I mean, I've got to say, tournaments. I mean, you're absolutely right. The Harrington books are fantastic, but Tournaments for Advanced Players by Slansky Malmuth. It's a brilliant book. It's a brilliant textbook on no limit poker, let alone tournament poker.
Yeah.
I have to say, I do really like that book. The Scherer books, are quite interesting. There are 2 Scherer books. One is No Fold'em Hold'em, and there's another one. It's something like, it's got the word fox in the title actually, and I've talked about him before as being a really mad writer. But there are some really good things that Scherer writes about. He's a good tournament player. The other thing, to be honest with you, I mean, you're a poker columnist yourself. I learned enormous amounts about tournaments, particularly from interviews in Card Player magazine, because what Card Player magazine what's the other American title? Poker Card Player, is it not Poker Digest? It might be Poker Digest. But anyway, what those titles are doing, and Poker Europa, I'm sure is doing exactly the same. I'm not fully up on all the titles that are across Europe now. But there's a good 13 or 15 poker magazines out there on the market. Is they're interviewing tournament players. They don't interview big cash players who no one knows.
Yeah.
They're interviewing tournament players. So all that advice is geared towards tournaments. All of it is what they did in their last tournament to win. It's all and also we need to say now the Daniel Negreanu blog, which
yeah. Do you know what? You've taken away. I was just about to say in a breath that also the online resources, all the big players with their blogs and their own sites. There's a huge wealth of stuff out there. I was reading one of the Mike Carroll sites that's got loads of really great tournament tippets. There's some big hands coming out in this game, isn't there? There's some real kind of big king aces, some big.
Yeah, Older commented after that hand, are you going to let me steal your blind all night, Caspar? Not so much of a steal, was it, Older?
No, it had some weight behind it.
Yeah.
But previously, I was tuned into our featured private game earlier on, and it was just a succession of very average hands, and no one really willing to play them. But here, you seem to have had a reasonably busy night of it.
Yeah, it was lively. It's a very lively table, no doubt about it.
But so you're at 700. You're on the button. It's 2040. I mean, have you got some specific plan you're switching to, or are you just doing your thing, waiting for your hands you like?
I haven't played well. I haven't played. It's not a question of not being in the zone. I haven't played according to my normal plan in this tournament. I've lost a couple of hands and situations I don't want to lose. I've made a couple of plays I don't want to play. I haven't done my thing of calling in late position and extracting implied odds. I have anything but doubled through. I don't feel at all comfortable or happy. The blinds aren't big enough at this stage for me to do anything with them, win anything by stealing, so I've really only got to just sit tight.
Yeah.
In fact, this is kind of an interesting level, because in the early level I think you can call with impunity. When the blinds get to 40-80, you're making 120 when you steal. There's not much you can do really. Just sit and play tight. Or sit and play decent, solid poker. There's nap hands there, stealing with Jack 4. And, he's going to get called with almost anything, so he's almost certain to be behind. I just don't get it. I just don't get the steal from the small blind. I tell you, there's something. There's another line I read in a book or an article at some point, which has come back to me this moment. He says, if you're losing money in your poker game, if you feel you're fairly solid and you feel you have a good read on players and you're losing money, it says, look no further than the blinds. In other words, people lose money in blind play. Blind play, particularly in big tournaments, can make all the difference. And whilst it's easy to dismiss it, when we first started showing our multi-table tournaments, there was a lot of posters in the forums going, it's just the blinds fighting it out. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is just the blinds fighting it out. That is what happens. And if you want to be a good poker player, you do have to get used to playing the blinds and play them well. And sometimes, Matt, sometimes less is more. Sometimes playing the blinds well means just being prepared to get rid of them more often.
Yeah. Well, there was one of the guys you took, it's quite a valid point, one of the guys I interviewed is David Pomeroy, a young guy, started playing in some of the tournaments, and his philosophy about tournament success was, to my mind, tournament winners are about who can steal the most blinds, because that is your cash inflow. To have the hands and to win hands is clearly a big deal, but that's where he sees the real value in what skill is going to make me a tournament winner, and that's what he sees it as, is who is going to steal the most blinds, who is going to take the most blinds out, taking the money that you don't really have any reasonable right to go for. And that's not something I've really heard too many people talk about, but I guess that's the point, is, as you say, in these larger tournaments where there's huge blinds, big antes, is waiting for a hand and winning that hand is one thing, but to actually take that money that isn't really yours struck me as an interesting kind of point of view.
Yeah, I think I would say it's summed up slightly better. I would say that tournaments are, well, the phrase is, tournaments are stolen, not won. Tournaments aren't won, they're stolen. And I think that it needs to involve more than just a stealing the blind tactic. That's what's absolutely key. There needs to be, sometimes, like I hated the calls with the Queen 10 earlier on tonight, but sometimes you need to make inappropriate calls and the flop needs to come down and you need to take it on the flop. Because if you're only ever raising 3 times the big blind from whatever position, whether it's five positions off the button or on the button, if that's the only move in your arsenal, then I think you're in trouble. It's about, Making Jam makes a brilliant quote to me in the chat box at some point tonight. He quotes me when he does something, I think we'll see it in just a minute, it may have happened already, where I bet out and he check raised me on the turn and he cites me as saying, that's what you should do. That's one of the, was if it was checked around the flop, is to check raise the last position betting on the turn. And I wrote, damn, damn, damn. Just my words going back to haunt me. But, you need to have at least, I would say, 5 solid examples of that work for you. Okay, and which you have a good feel for. In other words, you recognise the patterns. They're not always going to work, but yes, the stealing the blinds needs to be there with a number of other steals. It's about taking the money when you know there's little resistance.
Well, you must love this big blind with 2-3 offsuit to get raised up by the man to your left.
I'm absolutely adoring that, mate.
That's good. 40-80 of the blinds. You are watching a $50 single table tournament featuring Caspar B, also known as Caspar the Legend Berry.
With an A. A-R.
7-10. It's a succession of big hands for yourself here, Mr. B.
Yeah, it hasn't been an embarrassment of riches, and then it turns into an embarrassment of riches, and then it turns into an embarrassment.
Good. Well, I'm glad. It's good news for me, because I frankly, the only reason I didn't want to play is I was just scared that this would happen to me, and then I'd be sitting here defending myself.
Well, there you go, mate. Saved you from that fate. There's Alan.
Of all the nicknames, Alan Thompson, clearly the straightest nickname I've ever had. Really just a name.
Yes, it is more of a name than anything. Alan.
It could catch on. Because, you're sitting there thinking of a
everyone
name.
calls themselves Alan Thompson 999, Alan Thompson 01, Alan Thompson.
Actually, I think that's a good idea. Yeah.
I don't think it is.
Leroy Jenkins, I think, that's what you're looking for.
Sorry to interrupt you, Matt.
No, I was talking rubbish anyway, please do.
I have a big think here, because I seriously think about going all in here. Because I will not let myself get into this low chip situation. And I've got a late caller there, which I feel is weak. And I feel we'll have to lay it down to a raise. If I don't, I guess I'm kind of glad, because I think Goseppa might have called me with his ace-jack. But that's my thinking process there. And it's one of those, I'm on the fence, and I'm glad that I've laid it down. On balance, I think it would have been a bad play. But in fact, on balance, I think it would have been a reasonably tilty play. but it would have been a tilty aggressive play, yeah, rather than a tilty cally play.
I like the
No,
terminology.
because there is a difference. I mean, sometimes I'm not saying that tilt is a good thing in any way, but you know, if you can channel it into aggression and making thought through plays aggressively. The fact was I stopped and thought about it and thought, I don't know enough about everything that's out there at this stage, so I'll lay it down. But now what happens here with my ace5? Do I do anything? I don't think I do, actually. I think I just say, no, you know what, got ace5. No, I don't.
Yeah, it's the worst thing in the world when you surprise yourself watching this.
It is. It's very interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
But that's Cara's law of loose wiring. There it is in full effect. You know, do you know the law of loose wiring?
Yeah.
The ceteris paribus, in other words, all things being equal, exactly the same person would make a completely different decision.
Yeah.
So there you are, in full effect.
Yeah, no, I scared the life out of myself. One of the games I played, I saw the action, I said, well, I'm going to fold this, and I didn't. I raised it. I was like, well, I don't remember doing that. I don't know what thought process was, even though I could see the people's cards second time round. I was just marvelling at one of the moves I made, because I'd never do that. What was I thinking? What was I...
Okay, I think I can remember what... Do you know what's interesting is the first 3 times I played Beat the Presenter, I remembered every single play, hand for hand. And do you know why?
No.
Because I was a lot more emotional. I had adrenaline coursing through my body,
Really?
and adrenaline improves the memory. So I could literally remember I could remember every single moment, every single sort of thought process. But casting my mind back to that ace5, what I thought was, I've actually been quite quiet now in the last 20, 25 hands.
So maybe people think, he's got a hand finally.
Yeah.
How did that work out for you?
Well, I won the hand.
Well, there you are. No, that I was inviting you to, and it clearly worked.
Yeah, I don't.
Or do you think
I don't think
it's
it's the greatest raise in the world.
Nah.
I don't think it's the kind of raise that wins tournaments. But again, you come back to, because the blinds are only 40-80. Once the blinds get to 81-60 in this tournament, you've got to make raises like that if you're in the chips position that I'm in. Let me just say that fully. You've got to make raises like that if you're in the chip position that I'm in. Not if you're safe when they're 81-60, but down there, or you're so dominant everyone's folding to you.
Yeah.
Okay. But at 40-80, it's a marginal play. That's why I'm on the fence about it, because I'm not really winning that much. So here we have Alder. Look, Matt, this is a textbook example of what I'm talking about. He raises with 3-2. All right, I'm not saying Mr. Perfect would put ace-queen down under any situation, but it's just so weak. Raising with that on the button, you've got 3-2. In fact, to be honest with you, you know, when you read TJ is absolutely adamant that, okay, steal from late position, but you've got to have something.
Yeah.
Yeah? And that your cards should count for something, certainly way back there. In fact, I guess if you juxtapose all of what TJ's saying these days, he's saying, okay, you can raise with pretty much anything in mid-position when people will give you respect, but back in those positions, you've got to have something. You don't have to have ace-king, but you've got to have ace-10, ace-jack.
I'm hearing you, brother.
Thank you. Glad someone is. Don't have a girlfriend at the moment to sound off to, so I use this show as something of a... You're kind of like a priest to me at the moment.
Tell me everything, my son.
It's better than being a girlfriend. Nap hands, by the way, I've got Queen 10 there, and there are certain players that I come over the top of, but have you seen Nap hands raise yet, pre-flop?
No, that's absolutely true.
So
no,
I put that
you
down.
Put him on, so
Yeah.
And once again, there are hands at the table, but none of them appear to be in front of you.
No, I have 4-8. And Nap hands pushes here, making Jam to make a decision. As I recall, let's see me be wrong again. It doesn't push, but he raises it up. Nap hands going for an Oscar there, I think. And making Jam sits there and just thinks, bugger.
There's no other thought going through his brain than that, is there? Ace-3 suited. Well, that's an improvement on some of the previous hands you've been dealt.
Yeah, it came out as ace-3 suited, if only.
Oh.
I mean, 8-3 suited.
Oh.
And Nap hand's there with his third hand in a row. Is this the kind of hand to get no respect? Well, it would be if anyone had anything at all. We'd all be looking at Nap hands going, well, that's a bit fishy, isn't it? But fortunately for all concerned, no one has anything. And making Jam goes, God, you know, I've gone from 900 to 290 in 2 hands. This isn't really fair, but probably on balance his decisions have been good. Oh no, this I have to say this is a mistake, and now obviously looking at the hands. Oh no, because Mr. Perfect raises. Sorry, God, I'm misremembering everything today.
You don't know who you are, do you?
No. I remember it being passed to me with King Jack and me folding and thinking, oh, that's a mistake. Maybe that happens on a different hand or game. So look at me down to 580 now, and the blind's 8160.
But the good news is you're no longer the short stack. I mean, you've got to be pleased with that. Oh, hello. That'll be the hand you've been waiting for.
Yeah.
And I'd imagine you're going to get no action whatsoever.
And you know, I'd like to just raise it 2 times the big blind, but I think that's so suspicious that I just don't want to do it. So I do what you would do if you had King Jack, basically, and move all in. And it's highly effective, as you can see. And that hand does have a bit of a dwell. Older dwells for longer, presumably to say, don't steal my blind, rather than to say, I might have a little call here.
Or was he just typing in hilarious jokes?
No, he was all right by that time. No, it's Mr. Perfect that has a hilarious joke, and it's coming up now. It's coming up right now. So there I was with the aces, and I've stolen, and now I think, bingo.
No one will believe twice in a row.
Exactly. So...
so this
now
time.
I do just do twice the raise.
Okay.
Maybe to make it look like I have got King Jack. I'm just trying my luck. A momentum player. I talked a great deal about momentum after my first beat the presenter. Mr. Perfect. He thinks he's so clever, isn't he? Hey, has a little dwell. Thinks about it. Now this is what happens. Look, he checks, right? He checks. I push, and he writes in the chat box, it's quite a big step up to these $50 tournaments, you know, Caspar.
Oh, there's one born every minute.
That is brutal, isn't it?
That is quite... Oh, hello.
Horrible man. What a pathetic little man.
Well, that was the first of tonight's featured...
well, are we going to see this end? Because I kind of think it's quite unfair if we just duck out now. What are we going to do?
Well,
what does the producer think?
I think we're going to come out and address some emails, because we're coming up to a break fairly shortly. So I think what we're going to have to do is abandon this. No disrespect to the guys playing out here, but we're going to give these guys a nod of due respect. But we're going to pick up some emails, and then when we come back a bit later on after our next break, we'll go and take a look at the second tournament that Caspar participated in tonight.
So basically, what we're saying is the run is over. And let me just say, that is $50 that has been taken out of the little kiddies' mouths that we're going to be giving this money to at the end of the season. It's all going to charity.
Oh, really?
Right, so literally,
if
they're on the ward.
If I'd known that, I would have won more.
Well, you should have. They're on the ward, right? We're buying them toys and food. Yeah, well, I am. I don't know. I haven't really checked this out with the staff. And Mr. Perfect has basically laughed at the fact that some kiddie's going to go without a present this Christmas, stroke Easter.
Vicious.
So I have got to go and win it back. The question is, will I? Stay tuned.
Do it for the kids. Caspar is Santa. We're going to take some emails quickly. Email from Celeste. Good evening, Celeste. Nice to hear. Not heard from you for a while. Good to see you. Hi, guys. Loving the show. No, it could be a bloke called Celeste, right now. Big trucker. All right, name Celeste. Ralph Celeste. I was playing in a live tourney last week, and I won a number of hands. Well done. One of the hands I won was a definite bluff on my part. After 2 aces came out on the flop, I had 9-10 unsuited, but went all in. I was pressurised by my fellow player in a big way to show my hand after I won, but I refused. Should I have confessed, or was I right to hold my cards close? I've seen many players looking very confident, throwing their cards in for all to see and giving the impression of dominance. Or should I just mix it up and confuse people more?
First of all, don't ever take any crap from another player about showing your cards. You show your cards whenever you want to, and I mean, it's actually bad form for him even to try and persuade you, frankly, although I guess he can do whatever he wants to do. The second thing I'd say is that, yeah, you know, standard poker wisdom is not to show your cards, and if in doubt, never show your cards. Simple as that. If you want to, you know, catch all, never show your cards, because whenever you show your cards, you are giving the more astute players a little read on you. In other words, if they were very observant about the way you played your cards at the beginning, the amount of your raise, your body language throughout, you've given them information. So that's number 2. Number 3, however, is that I just said earlier on I was going to raise my 5-7, show my cards, and use that as a bit of cheap advertising to get an effect. So if you know what you're doing and you feel confident and you can create dominance and subservience at the table, then you should show your cards in certain situations. But don't ever let anyone make you.
Interesting stuff. Good. Lovely stuff. Thanks for that. I hope that helps... I forgot your name already. I was going to say Cecile. Celeste. Sorry, Celeste. Mine like a sieve. Been eating chocolate all night. Now, this is probably too late, but I'm going to read it anyway. We had an email came in during Caspar's game from Piccadilly that was saying, I'm in a tournament and I need advice right now. I'm sure by now it is too late, but it's quite an interesting point, so I'm going to give it to Caspar anyway. So, hi.
I don't think this is the format to get like instant advice like that, really, do you?
No, we're not like that. I mean, I couldn't even get a comment out of this guy for about an hour, so I'm really trying to get this kind of like AA instant response.
I was playing in 2 sit and goes for the kids.
For the kids. That's the excuse for everything, isn't it? For the kids. All the T-shirts. Anyway, from Piccadilly, just made it to the final table of a $109 multi-table. And I have about 100,000 in chips. Brilliant. With blinds at 15 and, sorry, should 1,500. I say 1,500 and 3,000.
Okay.
First prize is about $5 grand. Simple question. Would you recommend bullying the table or playing tight, aggressive and picking up cards as and when?
Picking up chips and when?
Picking up chips as and when, which is what I said.
Can't decide when you pick up the cards.
Thanks. Keep safe.
The latter. I would advise. Standard final table strategy, unless you are a really, really strong player and you have a real edge over the rest of the table, is to play solid, tight, aggressive. It's when poker actually becomes very interesting, because it is actually the quintessential put your money in when you think you're best. I was going to say 99 times out of 100, but 19 times out of 20. And so that's when poker really does become about, am I best here? Am I best? And it's about all your reading skills, recognising betting patterns, body language at a live table. I would not bully the table. I don't care if you're the chip leader. I really would not bully the table, because bullying the table as a chip leader, 2 things. First of all, it's not your job to take people out. They'll do that by themselves, so don't sweat it. And number 2, it's a surefire way to give your chips away, because if you're bullying, you know, people will call you when they're short stacked, and they could be calling you with a better hand. If you're bullying, then what you're doing is you're playing looser. Don't do it. Again, unless you've got a really good read, or you're really dominant, or people are really scared of you, or you're really lucky.
There you are. Take that. Now we have an email with. It's actually,
can I say the luck thing was a joke? Because we do have players who, viewers who don't watch it.
Yeah, we don't want you to get the wrong impression.
Yep.
We've got an email from Nicky, Jim and Benji Boy. Thank you very much indeed. It's actually got a few questions packed in there, so we see how we get through, because we're coming up to a break. It might be that we manage to address a couple and we come back to more.
And you'll have to tell me by the way, because I have no earpiece telling me.
Oh, okay.
So stop.
Fine.
Me.
I'll stop you if you're talking for too long. Just a few questions. Hello, Matt and Caspar. Great show as usual. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much. We emailed the other night and was having quite a bit of success. We have had a minor setback. Question 1. At the end of a sit and go, when there's 4 people remaining and we are second in chips, we get pushed all in by the small blind. Small blinds again. And we have ace-king suited.
This is a royal win.
Would you push all in or wait to see if someone else gets knocked out, even though the blinds are getting pretty high? So it's one of those get involved or sit back and hope to move up the position.
End of a sit and go, there's 4 people remaining, we're second in chips. I would definitely go all in.
Okay.
Yeah, with ace-king, from that big blind.
And what are your general thoughts on the whole kind of like sitting back and waiting to move up position through others' death, rather than playing winning possible hands?
And if I had a marginal hand, if it was king 10, and people are being aggressive, then I definitely want to sit back. I would fold in that situation with king 10, because I don't know that I'm best, because he's going to call me. When the small blind moves like that at the end, when you're four-handed and he moves all in on you and you come over the top, he's going to call you. So you've got to have a decent hand. And with ace-king, there are only 2 hands where you're not 50-50 or a lot better, okay, and they're aces and kings. So I'm going to do it in that situation. If he's got aces and kings, that's fine, good luck to him. There are so many hands that he'd do that with a small blind from, that again, the probabilities, the chances are, if we do that 100,000 times, we're not going to be in trouble. Not desperate trouble. Have we got time for question 2?
Yes, we'll go through this one. We've started to have a lot of success betting 3 times the big blind and keeping our betting low. Do you think this is a good play so you're not getting pushed all in?
Yes. Yes, that's great. 3 times the big blind, absolutely. And until your stack gets to about 8 times the big blind, a little bit less in a sit and go, at which point, if you bet 3 times the big blind and someone comes to the top of you, you're kind of either in trouble or pot committed anyway. So at that point, you want to be moving all in. That's why in these prima sit and goes, that point where you're moving all in comes pretty quickly in the structure. So yes, 3 times the big blind is great.
Okay, now I'm going to save the last one.
Oh,
there's one more question in this little segment, but we're going to go to a break very shortly. When we come back, we will pick up the rest of the emails. We're also going to come back and see Caspar in his second sit and go of the evening, see how he does for the kids. So don't go anybody, don't go anywhere. We'll be back after this short break. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Poker Night Live. It's Matt Broughton and Caspar Berry with you this evening, and you're very welcome. Before the break, we we were halfway through an email, which we are going to go and finish off. I can also tell you that as we have 2 Caspar Beat the Presenter games tonight, we are going to go back and show you the end of that first tournament he was in. So never fear, you will get to learn what happened once Caspar exited. Before we go to that email, let me just remind you exactly how you can indeed be part of the emailers. You can text us or email us all your questions and queries. Text is 84222. You need to put the word poker followed by your question, and please also let us know your name. You can also, as always, email us poker@pokernightlive.co.uk. And also I can let you know that if you were with us a bit earlier on, we were watching a private game that was run by the Pair of Jacks private tournament people, and the winner of that was Stillwell, who was sitting down in the bottom left of the table. He dominated for most of the game and he went on to win it. So just as we didn't manage to catch the end of that, that's what happened there. Last question we had coming in from Nicky, Jim and Benji Boy. They gave us 3 questions and we only managed to get through 2 of them. And the third one was saying, we've experimented with various seating positions and Caspar Berries is the best. Why do you like sitting in this seat and do you think this is important? Do you have a seat, Caspar?
I don't.
No?
Well, I mean, I do in the sense of I personally, for some reason, like Hoofy likes seat 3. I mean, I tend to play on 10-handed tables, so I sit on a 10, 9, 8, 7. So that's 7 or 6 on a 10-handed table. I'm not entirely sure, but that's just because, like Hoofy, I like to look at the same part of the screen to see where I am. Whereas on TV, I've played in seat 1 a lot for some reason. I don't know why. So there is, there is no seat that's the best.
So there is no official Caspar B seat that we should be trying
but even if there was, let's put the most important point to the fore, which is it doesn't matter what seat you sit in terms of the cards.
Are you sure? Because they seem to think that you think it's important.
I don't think it's important. I can state that with some alacrity.
With who? You can get tablets for that. Okay. Another email from Tim in Hull. Thanks again, everybody that's emailed in. Hi, Matt and Cass. Hi, Tim. This is a cash game related question, don't get many of them. I play 25 cents, 50 cents ring games.
With good reason.
And I always buy in for the full $50 as this suits my style of play, whatever that might be. If I lose my whole stack and I still feel I have an edge on the game, I buy in again for the maximum. Would it make sense to top up for the maximum as soon as my stack falls below $50? I have an appropriate, bankroll for that level. So he's saying, should he just top up as soon as his stack falls below 50 or wait till he's lost it all and buy back in?
Oh, well, Tom and I did an absolute classic show on this subject.
Really?
Well, yeah.
Did it win awards?
I think it was the one they submitted. Because we talked about, there are 2 main defining features for how much stack you should have, right? Number 1 is how good you are. All right, where you actually should have a smaller stack as possible because you want implied odds not to work against you.
Yeah.
And the other one is how tight you are. And if you're very loose, you want a big stack to get all those implied odds, yeah, when you play your 4 sevens on the button. And if you're very tight, you actually don't want a big stack because you want to be able to move all in with your hands and not to be able to have people trap you for big implied odds. Okay, so. Whether you should have the maximum sitting in front of you is actually a function of those 2 things. So, for example, if you are a bad tight player, you want a very small stack. And if you are a very good loose player, then you want a very big stack. If you are a very good loose player, then yes, you want as much sitting in front of you as you can at any one time. So as long as it doesn't get silly and you're constantly going to the cashier, then you probably should be buying in for as much as possible each time.
And as far as saying that as soon as you fall below your maximum buy-in to reload, then
that's what I mean. Yeah. You should try and keep it there all the time.
Yeah.
The first point: should he buy in for the maximum if he feels he has an edge over the game? Yes, definitely. You should be playing in any game over which you feel you have an edge, no matter how much you're up or how much you're down. If you're down, it's so simple, and I hate when people contradict this. If you're down by enough that it creates an emotional adverse reaction that affects your play to the extent that you then have a negative expectation in the game, and I know that's more of an art than a science to calculate, then get up. But if you can be the kind of player who can be $5,000 down and still be cold as ice and still play your A game, it doesn't matter how much you're down. If you're $5,000 down, if you're playing in a 100, 200 game, you've probably lost 2 hands. Do you know what I mean? If you're playing in a 1-2 game and you're $5,000 down, if you still believe it's because of a horrendous series of outdraws and you have an edge over this table, genuinely, and you have good reason to believe that, and you're a good player who knows his game and is being reasonable about it, and you've seen these guys outdraw you time after time after time, and only outdraw you, and outdraw you when they didn't have the implied odds when they were all in, then you have a positive expectation of that game you should carry on playing, as long as your loss does not create an emotional reaction that impairs your judgment to the degree that you don't have an edge.
Okay.
It's so simple.
Fearsome advice from Mr. Berry. And we're going to pick up another email just before we go into Caspar's second tournament. And this is an email from Dimac. Hiya guys, great show, thank you very much. I started playing poker about a year ago and used to watch your show all the time. However, I moved house last July and hadn't watched it since. Don't know why, if that's just personal choice or out of signal range or something.
I think you probably didn't have Sky there.
That's probably the truth, I was just trying to be clever.
No,
I now watch on the internet.
Don't try though, let it come naturally.
I'm not Nick the Hare Wealthall, it doesn't just flow
God.
like a river of wit. I now watch on the internet, didn't know I could until recently. Well, you can, it's a marvellous thing, Tinternet. The advice of Cass and Dr. Tom, given at the time, became invaluable, to such an extent that for the last 5 months I've been full-time on the internet, playing twice weekly in my local casino.
Brilliant, good for him.
I'm sure once the check arrives for you and Tom, they'll be very grateful to hear that.
Do you know I'm living off the commissions these days?
Really?
It's like pyramid selling.
It's as simple as that. I have, over the last few days, though, hit a lot of scenarios where I have an overpair, usually aces or kings, as I am the proverbial rock, but the board shows 3 cards all the same suit, and I have no draw to the flush. How should I play it? I know the odds of someone flopping a flush, especially as I raise pre-flop a slim, the 118 to 1, so I usually bet aggressively to price out the draw, but I'm getting annoyed at the amount of players calling or raising with a draw and busting me. Should I be giving my opponent the odds to call so I can get away from my hand if he hits?
Oh, it's a perennial one, this, isn't it? And you're
It's
talking
a
to someone who, as I said at the top of this show, had so many flush draws made against me at the weekend. It was funny, we were laughing about it, but God, it's depressing when it happens time and time again. No, you're playing correctly, and you're playing right, and I know, I do get to sound like a broken record about this, but so many times we get emails from guys who are just, they're doing everything right and they want reassurance of that, and that's exactly what it is here. You just want reassurance of it. I talked with Kara about Hitchcock's things that he gave people to think on their way to the car. He never wrapped up a film completely. He always gave a little conversation point on the way to the car after the movie. And poker's the same. You bust out of a tournament, you lose to like 3 flushes in an evening, and you turn off your computer. You don't walk to the car, but you walk to your bedroom and you just think, oh God, did I do something wrong? Am I doing it wrong? Am I playing wrong? And what you say is no. You're playing it absolutely right as you are at the moment, and you just had a nasty run of that particular situation. You're right. It's rare for people to flop a flush, particularly when your head's up. It's happening, or they're making the draw. The best that you can do is give them the incorrect odds to draw against it. It doesn't feel like it because it hurts right now. But poker is about pain. I remember there's one point over the weekend where Nick and I had a whole series of hands which obviously had to stand up. We were playing in tournaments, there was a whole load of all-in situations. And Nick went like this, he went, no, ah, yes! And I just turned to him, I just went, man, this is no way to live. Do you know what I mean? And he was like, it's emotional, it's good to be on the edge. And I said, no, it's not, it's bad for your heart, man.
And Nick's only 17,
yeah,
and that's
exactly.
the thing. And Caspar's just had his 18th birthday.
Dickie Davis Gray.
Look at him.
If you want to play poker, that's what it is. It's about sitting there with ace queen when the other guy's got 10-8 and going, no, low, come low, or high. You turn into Bruce Forsyth.
Okay, well, look, thanks very much for that, Dimek. We are going to take a break from the emails, and we're going to go down and check out Caspar's second Beat the Presenter game. So let's go down and check that out right now.
For the kids.
For the kids, doing it for the boys. Boys and girls. So you're in the Caspar B. Oh no, you've moved round a seat, haven't you?
I've moved round a seat, yeah. And I'll be honest with you why I don't care where I sit.
That's a beautiful thing. It's all the classics. It's a Poker Night Live reunited.
I saw the boys.
Bullrog, Posh. Actually, having said, Hoke Balls. They're making jam. They're all there. Good evening, folks.
Now I'm not complacent. Can I just say that?
I was just about to say. So how you've sat down. Now what are you thinking? Now you're thinking, right, that was just silly.
I'm determined now, to be honest with you. I feel a bit stupid going out in first. I feel like I made some bad plays early on. I don't feel at all bad about going out with kings to aces. I think the guy played it very well against me. He didn't know I had kings, so he didn't have to trap, but if I'd had a less good hand, he could have trapped.
I have to say we've had a cracking email just nibble in there from Flipper. Please can you ask Caspar to stop yawning when he thinks he's out of shot? It's making me tired.
Do you know what, have I been yawning tonight?
A little bit of yawning. Well, actually, I've got a funny feeling that what Flipper's doing here is mistaking your trademark burping and not really burping. And
for a yawn.
It looks like, is he burping or talking or yawning? And I think maybe
I'm burping because I'm drinking Red Bull whenever I'm not in shot.
Well, that'll be it. So I think that it's not yawning, Flip. Caspar's not. He's going to be up all night.
Not yawning, but drowning.
But thank you, Flipper. That most amusing.
Most amusing, but not fair. So where does that stand in the great pantheon of points?
And you must be feeling quite happy at this stage because you've started as you finished the previous game with some quality hands.
The deck's smashing me over the head.
It doesn't like you much, does it?
Well, don't say that. The viewing audience are right now screaming at the television, Caspar is the king of the outdraws, which is my reputation after tournament number 3, where I did have a couple of outrageous outdraws in my favour. But, you know, I'm not going to apologise, that's life. So here I am with 7s. I'm a fish, has a nice ace-king suited, and I believe he raises it to 60, to 40. And that is just the kind of level that I can call now. I wouldn't call with king 10, incidentally,
no?
But I'm going to call with a pair of 7s. And the flop comes aces and 9s. Oh, no, this is a very interesting situation, actually. Now watch this. Okay, so I check, all right, and then the flop comes with a heart, and it's checked around again, basically. This is the hand that Making Jam makes the comment. And so it comes to me, and so it's been checked around twice. So I bet, but you know, the reason why I checked the first time is because I don't have a piece of it, and any flop like that with 2 hearts, very often with 4 players, someone's going to have the flush draw, so they're going to call, they could have the ace, I'm not going to know where I am, they could call, they could have an ace, they could have a 9, or they could have hearts, and I'm not going to know anything, right? So I bet out into that flop, and what's bizarre actually is I'm a fish put that down, didn't he?
Yeah, he had the ace-king and he threw that down, yeah.
Well, that's very weird. Does categorise him as a bit of a fish to me, to be honest. If you're the only reason to play ace-king like that is to check raise it. If someone check raises, you've still got to have the guts, if you like, to go. I mean, you obviously put Making Jam on a 9, but Making Jam would have done that with so many things, including a bluff in this situation when it's been checked around twice. Okay, that's what he did, so fine. So now I've lost 130 in the beginning of this game as well, and honestly, I wasn't chatting that much in the chat box after a while. And I went very quiet, I wasn't talking to you, because I just really I didn't want to, I can see myself going out 8 twice right now, and the inevitable calls of, variance kicks in the end. So I'm not happy, Matt. That's what I'm saying.
No, I'm sensing you're oozing unhappiness.
But you do. So basically, that's the point, and that's good. And the thing about that is that, you know, the early Beat the Presenter tournaments that I played, very, very focused, because you want to, you know, do well playing on telly for your reputation, etc.
And the kids as well, obviously.
And the kids. Let's not, you know, it's all about the presents. And when you're playing poker for a sum of money that hurts, you know, it focuses you. God, there's nothing focuses you like playing for, you know, money that hurts. So that's how I feel right now, and that's a good way to be in poker, I think. You know, once it all starts ebbing and flowing and you can't tell one hand from the next, that's when you're going to make mistakes because you don't care enough.
Yeah, and that's always hard, isn't it, when we get people talking about having trouble playing at lower limits. And the worst sort of people to play against are people that don't care about the money, because they'll just turn into calling stations, or they just, you know, it's finding a level where people start to actually invest a bit of love into the amount they've invested. Yeah,
I mean, personally, I disagree with the first part of that. That's just my personal opinion. I want to play with people who don't care, because I want to play with people who make bad calls, because that's how I make my money. They are going to outdraw against me, that's absolutely fine. But the point is, if they make bad calls and they've made me money by doing so, when you're playing against a lot of them, that is when it does get confusing, because you don't have any anchors or any ballast. But I've always wanted a couple of them in my game, and I'm more than happy to endure the outdraws as I did this weekend in order to in order to have the upside of that situation. Okay, so I'm in the small blind with Jack 6, and I better call now just to spite myself, but really I should be folding. In fact, Jack 6 is the exact same hand as I called with last time, didn't I? From the small blind.
Well, even oh no, I can't do that. 4-5. We're going to have a think about it. And it is interesting, obviously, having kind of looked over your shoulder and seen the amount of chat going on, is that we have, get quite a lot of emails about people trying to look for these online tells and the amount of time somebody takes to make the decision. But of course, you've no idea whether they're thinking about it or whether they're just multi-tabling or typing something hilarious. So unless you really know what people are up to, you can't really invest too much into, like, he called so quickly or he took so long to make his move.
Mate, my big argument about that is, well, twofold. First of all, take all information into account. So, consider it, throw it into the basket with all the other information you have. Nick's absolutely right. There is one tell which is, if someone thinks a long time and then raises, they tend to have it. Do you know what I mean? They're just dwelling. But people talk about, it was just a couple of seconds too late. And I'm just like, mate, the internet can take a couple of seconds to process the information.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I don't care what your connection speed is. It can just be a couple of seconds just to go, Yeah. So it's meaningless to me when people talk about that kind of thing. I think they're just looking for, things to give internet poker more depth and richness. It doesn't need it. There's already an awful lot. Once you've got people's betting patterns logged, then you can once you've got the heads-up history between you two logged. It's my big beef, not beef, but my big what's the word? Hobby horse at the moment is the importance of the last 2 or 3 hands between you and that player, and how much it affects your relationship with them in that particular moment. So once you've got master of all those things, then factor in how much time it takes to make a decision. Until that point, don't worry about it. 7, 8, 9, 10 Jack for Horwick. Nice situation. Check raises him on the flop with those 2 hearts out there to making jam pay. Were there a couple of other players in this hand? No, it was always just him at the point of the check raise at heads up. So for me, as a heads up, I'm not going to be too worried about those hearts. I've got to be honest. I mean, this debate will run and run, but for me, A, it's 5 to 1 that the next card's going to be a heart, and B, I don't know the exact probability, but it's an extreme minority of cases that he's going to have 2 hearts in a heads-up situation. I'm prepared to endure the losses in that situation when they come for the additional profit that I'll get by just checking and calling there.
Check raising the snowman.
Unless you feel that making jam is not an aggressive player and won't bet out the turn if you call, and I don't think the check raise on the flop is necessarily the profitable play. I could be wrong. People argue against me. Please.
Ball rug. With a pretty hand. Doesn't fancy it in like the raise. Which is fair dues for me. Ace 10, ace jack. 10 queen. Really thinking about that?
Sorry, me what?
10 queen calling there in like that raise. I'm just wondering if...
Yeah, not for me.
No.
And this is a perfect example of why, actually, is that a raise like that is so often likely to have a 10 queen dominated. So you think, oh, I'm in the blind, I'll pop some money in and see what it brings. But I mean, I wouldn't call with king jack in that situation, or king jack suited, because of the likelihood of domination. Ace jack, ace king, ace queen, king queen. Horrible dominated situations. Not ace queen, but the rest of them dominated situations. And the point is, when someone raises like that, they're saying, I've got a hand of that order.
Well, hello. That'll be a hand then.
That'll be a dominated hand then. So this is funny, actually, because I did this to prove a point. So look at this. He raises me from the small blind. So I literally move all in and write in the chat box, C. What I'm saying is, when you're raising the small blind, you expose yourself to bullying. and I actually thought he put it down.
No.
But he calls me king queen, and he doesn't hit a queen. So lovely for me. I mean, I double through, but I actually really did it only to prove a point. I really honestly didn't expect him to call at all. Because what are you going to call with when I've been talking about that situation all night?
Yeah.
What are you going to call with?
He knew he had you covered. It left him 30 pence. There it is. See, putting the words into action. 8-9, 2 players, small blind.
My view on that, Matt, is the only hands that he can call with are the hands that he wouldn't have raised with from the small blind. Yeah, if he had aces, kings, or queens, he wouldn't have raised it from the small blind. He would have smooth called.
Yep. Yep.
So I really did that to close it down, but it worked out much more advantageously for me. Horwick in an awkward situation now with making jam, so the situation's reversed compared to what they were before.
Well, that's not really mucking around, is it? 320.
No, it's a good bet there for making jam, I think, actually.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit big in case if Horwick does have the king and he moves all in, then maybe we haven't left ourselves quite enough. I want to be able to ask a question and still be able to get away from it, I think, possibly. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, no, I'm all about that. I'm trying to work on that myself because I tend to think, well...
For the kids?
I'm making the move... Well, no, I haven't really played for the kids. Now that I feel dreadful now, I know it's for the kids. I'm just glad I was only playing in relatively reasonable priced tournaments when I came 7th and 5th. But yeah, it is a balance about what you're trying to achieve, because as you say, you want to ask a question and make it something you can get away with, but you don't want to actually miss the point of what the bet could also achieve for you. So I think it's something that I know I can often struggle with, just finding the right, not giving them so many odds that it in fact doesn't work at all. They just want to get involved because they're getting great money, but also making it weighty enough that you kind of push them to actually have to react. Well, 10 king and he's all in for his last threepence. That'll be aces and fours then. King or 10, please? No. Oh, hang on. No. There you go. Isn't that just horrible? I hate that. That's one of the most horrible things that ever happens to me. Is when your pair gets negated and the kicker comes back into play that you hadn't even been worried about until the river. And then you suddenly think, oh my God, all of a sudden his kicker counts again.
Yeah.
And I'm ruined.
Yeah, it is horrible. Counterfeiting.
Yes. I ran a tournament where the guy just wouldn't accept it. He'd say, no, you look, I've got a pair. And you say, no, look. And you do that whole conversation goes, no, pick your best 5 cards. No, I've got 3 pairs. And then, no.
Go on,
no,
have your free choice, sir.
Yeah. Now pick his best 5 cards. So you see why he's won. I see why he's won, but look again at my hand. And I said, no, believe me, sir. I know the hell you're going through.
Look at this. Temmer in seat 4, you laughed when he kept 30 chips. Look at him now.
I know. I didn't laugh when he kept 30 chips.
You weren't kind, were you?
Well, no. I mean, actually, it wasn't like he chose to have 30 chips left, was it? He was all in, and he had the guy covered and had 30.
I'm just quoting you.
You're not quoting me. You're making things up.
I'm not
like what I said.
Up.
Oh, hello. Oh, that's not nice. Well, that's got slightly better. That's got much better.
Oh, that's horrible, isn't it?
That's not fair.
This is what I mean. No way to live.
It is that.
I mean, all right, if you want to spend, your Easter weekend on a sofa with your mate, watching West Wing and doing this, it's brilliant. But that's, it's not a life, is it?
It's not nice, is it? It's not nice for anyone. King Jack. Posh has been very quiet, actually. Doesn't fancy any of that.
Do you know what?
Do you let him have it? I was just going to say, it was a lot easier to just make the point with ace-king, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But I'm sure there was hilarious ribbing in the chat box at that point. Let's take a look at some of the statistics behind the game we're currently enjoying. Up on screen any minute now, something will appear and we shall comment upon it thereof.
This looks fun.
Percentage of pre-flop folds.
Look at me! Tight as a rock there.
Oh,
you know.
Look at you, isn't it though? Wasn't she? Couldn't it?
Me and Stevie B. Posh. What a maniac.
He's bonkers, isn't he though?
Really
All wrong.
is.
Ooh, red hot tight.
All right, that's enough of that.
Yeah.
No, quick, because I've got a hand here.
Quickly, I'm about to be brilliant. Everyone look at me.
No, because this stimulates a lot of chat. Ooh, the wisdom of this. How wise is this, Cass, they say. So I raise with ace-5. What's the wisdom of that? Flop a flush draw.
Bah.
Check it.
In fact, I think I looked over and saw you at this point, and you were thinking, damn, I don't know if going to get much money out of this.
I'm going to check it again.
Look at you with the check. The double check move and Harwick's going right then.
That is what you call trappy. And the only problem with it being trappy is that, of course, my only worry here was that he could have been even more trappy.
With the full
Yeah,
house.
with the full house. But at the end of the day, again, you have to play the percentages. The likelihood is that he's not.
Yeah.
So the likelihood is that I have trapped him to lose a bit of money there. And I obviously don't know what he does have. So I raise it up because I do think there are a lot of hands there that he will call with that I beat. Most notably, of course, a smaller flush. And that there is the key to the river raise, conforming to Tom's river principle. Only make that raise if there are hands that he will call with that I can beat. Because if you'll only call if I am beat, then that's a problem. The fact is there are hands that he could call with that I'm beat, but I don't think that he would only call if I'm beat. He may, for example, call with a jack. He may call with a king. And he would certainly call, I think, with Queen of Diamonds.
Wow. Kablam. Look at you now.
Well, yeah, and that's a bit of a momentum situation for me. Although there is some discussion in the box about me raising with ace-5. It's got tongues a wagging.
Every man's entitled to raise when he fancies it.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, you know, the bottom line is, having learnt my lesson with my raise with 5-7 and the $50, if I'd missed it, I would have checked and fold.
Yeah.
Because it was that kind of situation.
Well, there goes 10. And we're down to 6, which of course includes Poker Night Live's very own Caspar the Legend Berry.
Queen 10 in early position, fold that trash. Playing that when the blinds are this big, for me, is one of the key things you can do to lose money in a tournament like this. And by the way, we were talking about raising with it when it gets three-handed. It's now six-handed.
Yeah.
So that's precisely the time at which we tighten up, play tight and aggressive. And when we play aggressively, whether it's a bluff or a hand, we really come out swinging, as TJ says, which always makes me laugh.
Well, Borog's not going to get involved in this, I'm sure.
He does.
He fancies it. I'm surprised. But
And,
as it stands, he's going to get it.
Quite possible he could have made me put down a big hand there, but as it is, I've got 7-2, and it's a very easy decision. Or would I have put a big hand down there? Or would I have said, actually, do you know what, he's on the button and I don't care?
Well, yeah. Do you know what, after tonight, I'm scared. I'm scared of the button, the cut-off, and anywhere. I'm scared about the table. I don't think I'm ever going to raise.
Should be, mate. Should be scared.
It all sounds like it's very dangerous. Caspar soaring like an eagle with his 2 and a bit grand and King Jack.
Interesting. That'll put a cat amongst the pigeons, won't it?
What are you thinking about there?
Well, me with King Jack there on the button, don't raise it. What does that mean?
Because people are going to think it's a...
I just think that's what I think.
Yeah.
You see, tournaments are all about opportunities, right? Tournaments are all about getting people to do what you want to do. And people look down and say, King Jack on the button, what are you doing? And I say, There are so many situations in which people come over the top of me and I have to let it down. People call me and I'm beaten. People come over the top of me and I'm beaten. And I feel like I have to call because I could take them out of the tournament or whatever it is. And I put the raise would have taken me to 480 there. So if these guys with 1,000 had come over the top of me, I would have to have called. I'd much rather raise with 8-10 in first position.
Yeah.
To take the chips.
Hey, do you know I'm learning all the time, and I'm hear what you say. I think that's the problem, isn't it? There's a point you come to where you're really fighting against yourself, because generally if you've been playing long enough with junk and you look down at something like King Jack, we'll think that's a playable hand, and it is hard to go, but I'm here, what are people going to do to me, etc., etc. It is what we always say, but the truth is it is a discipline.
Howick doesn't like this at all.
320, bang.
So now, yes, I'm in the small blind. Yes, I don't have the best hand in the world. Now the blinds are big. Now Howick, is in a difficult situation. He hasn't got the chance to come back over the top of me. I haven't exposed myself to being vulnerable. Yes, he's slightly ahead with Queen Ace 2, but yes, my King Queen suited is a good hand. It's a vastly superior hand to a random hand. So I feel fine about that. That's very different when the blinds are 40-80 and you raise to 240, giving the big blind with a stack of 1,200 the ability to come over the top of you and make you put King suited down.
Yeah. I'm a new man. I'm going to rule the tables tomorrow. If I can remember any of this. I'm there. There's a 10. But it's too late, mate.
It's too late. Balrog takes it down with his bullets.
Between?
And we are 5-handed. They drop like flies now. Blinds are... this is the thing. The sitting goes on this side. The blinds are big. Big, big, big. And... and so suddenly it becomes all Innsville. Howick with clickety-clicks. Moves all in. Leaves a little bit in reserve for a rainy day.
Well, we've seen it work for others.
Just in case the poker gods smile on him.
I have a good little story about Poker King smiling here that I might share with you from Kyle, who said, first of all, I'm an avid viewer of your programme. Good news. I want to tell you something, a stroke of luck. Playing in a multi-table tournament, he gets dealt pocket kings, and the chip leader moves all in before me. I tried to call, but the touchpad on my laptop wouldn't work.
Oh, God.
And he's thumping away, trying to call this massive raise, and it ended up timing it out and folding only to show that this chip leader had got pocket aces. Which would have knocked him all out. So all of a sudden his touchpad comes back into life and he's able to carry on to the multi-table down to the last two tables. Now that's a hand. That's a hand of God.
That's Guardian Angel, isn't it? And that's also a very Taoist story. That's a story that really proves go with the waters flow.
Exactly.
Don't fight against
Sometimes monkeys die.
Things happen for a reason. It's not a good phrase, but it's strangely appropriate in this situation.
We like that one. Thanks very much, Carl. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, Posh picks up a pretty sizable pot there. I've gone back to talking where the end of every sentence goes up.
I thought you spent some time in Australia.
Do you know, I have no idea where I pick this thing where I go, 7-4, Jack Queen, going to take a pot. And people say, whereabouts are you from? I go, Essex. They go, but originally, Essex.
Yeah.
Oh.
I would lie for so many reasons.
Yeah.
I'd like to speak of someone who is also from Essex till the age of 10. And then I moved to God's own country.
Nothing wrong with Essex. If you confuse people by going up, well, that'll be a Jack Queen hitting an out on board.
Yep. Howick exposed by that. Here with King 8, first position. I can put that down. And this is around about the time, folks, when the old they will knock each other out theory is really at its peak. They really will. Take it from me. And so Howick there makes his move with ace 5, the same ace 5 that I made a move with earlier on. you remember?
I do. It was beautiful. It was, in fact, it was diamonds as well,
On
wasn't it?
Harwick, yes, it was.
In fact.
Yes. And I've got 8-3 in the big blind. I don't like that much.
I bet you like it even less now.
I really hate it now, so I'm going to have to lose 320 valuable units. But that's life.
As is 5-10 off.
Yep. I mean, I really get some stinkers here, and this is a real struggle. But but it couldn't be better. Here we are, a couple of players going all in. No, lives to fight another day. Pair of fives.
Push. Queen's ahead of you.
Oh yeah, Queen's ahead of me. That's right. So
now do you fancy a
no,
push?
of course not.
Just checking.
And that's, again, that's the kind of move I think that will save you a lot of money.
Yeah.
Is you go, all right, he's pushed. Gap's huge at this point.
I think it's one of those things also, you talk about, a tip for people playing live about not looking at your cards until it's your turn to act, is I kind of wish you could do that online, because you do look at that and think, right, I'm going to push, and then somebody makes a move before you, and it's only if you're really in control that you can still let things go.
Yeah.
Whereas, in a live game, you know where you stand, you know what the action is, then you look down, you just have a different consideration.
Yeah. Push here with the Queen Jack, and Making Jam wisely folds the Queen 2. Now let me say one thing, two things. First of all, made the money, so the kiddies won't go as hungry as they might have done, just because Mr. Perfect decided to slow play his aces. All right, so we're not going to dwell on that, but and Making Jam, though, I don't think had a decision. You can let that go. And what's interesting about this three-hander, the most important thing, is the amount of folding that goes on. Watch how we play now, and all of us pretty much do this. All right, there's an awful lot of folding and of chips moving around the table in a clockwise fashion, going with position. It's really, really interesting final stages, actually, even to the extent of the heads up. So let's just take it in a bit now.
Let's just breathe it in, folks. I think the pictures speak for themselves.
They really do. There we go. Fold, fold, fold.
And everyone's going to take it in turns to have a hand while the other two have nothing.
That's exactly what happens. Foldy, foldy, foldy. King 3, King 7, 6, 3. I'm happy to fold this because I know he's going to call.
Yeah.
So
because he has to.
Yeah, but this is a very contentious move. You see, I say I've got 2,500 in chips, right? I've got 6-3. I just don't want to go to battle here because more time. Well, at least 60% of the time, 70% of the time, 80% of the time, depending on the exact matchup, I'm going to lose another 500 in chips.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't like those odds, not when there's still a chance that these two will take each other out. Yeah. All right, it takes them up to 1,400, but we still both got them covered. Okay, now the blinds are massive. And now what happens, fortunately, is PFC folds. I still had 1,600, bear in mind, but I hit my 4. That's great. That's a nice piece of luck. It's not a massive outdraw. First and fourth versus second and third. Yeah. It's not a coin flip, but it's not,
it's not hideous, is it? No. And now probably crazy time coming up around the corner, I would imagine.
Well, no, this is very interesting. Watch what we do here. I fold that hand. Okay, he's in the small blind with 9-7. He folds that hand. And what's interesting is you create a culture of folding, because what you say is, this other person's only playing when he's got a monster, and therefore I don't want to play him. So King 6, I'm fairly sure he folds this. Yeah, he folds Queen 5. This is very atypical for heads up, but at the same time, but this is very, very good example of what Tom talks about, the narrative. This has got a different kind of narrative to some heads up tournaments. Again, he fold 8, I fold 8-2. So neither of us fall below 2,000 in chips. That's very significant. The 2,000 in chips mark would be a watershed. Raise with 4-5 suited, fold 7-3. So this is about as interesting as a heads up can be when the blinds are 640 and 1,200.
Yeah. Well,
there are 8,000 chips.
There's got to be a.
Yeah. So obviously pushes.
No queens. You're going no queens. No queens. No queens.
I just low for the kids. For the kids.
Bang! It's aces and twos with a jack.
So I win it back.
So for every 8th place, there's a 1st place here on Poker Night Live.
So 8 cashes out of 9.
Doing it for the kids. It's a beautiful thing. I think you'll agree. And what we're going to do now is, because we broke out of that first tournament that Caspar was in to bring you that exciting winning one, we're going to go back now to the guys that we were watching earlier on to see how the rest of that tournament panned out once Mr. Berry had left the building. So let's go straight back down to that now. So this was our £50 single table. $50, excuse me.
Did our producer say Shabba in our ear?
I don't know. I was talking.
You don't get enough Shabba these days, do you?
Shabba? We're going down to the table. Shabba. So yeah, this was our $50 that Mr. Caspar was unlucky enough to run into slow played aces. I say unlucky.
Well, no, that wasn't my.
That wasn't your downfall.
No, the reason I went out of the tournament was because
you were rubbish.
weeded away a load of chips in the first 20 hands.
True. And as you can see here, we like to try and...
And do you know what was interesting about it? What did you feel? See, if I said to you, what was my presence at the table there? It was really weak, wasn't it? I didn't have an image that was strong either way. Yeah. And that's what I mean. If that 5-7 had worked, right? Yeah. If I could have shown that, I would have been able to do something very strong, which was then have sat really... Well, I played a couple, maybe more, a couple of little calls, and I've got big calls on my good hands from a table who weren't going to let me bully them. Yeah, and then I would have had a good, strong presence. And I'm not bemoaning it at all. I'm just saying that's the way that it went. That's fine. But where I was sitting in this halfway house, I looked like a loser. I felt like a loser. It wasn't happening. It's no surprise to me that I wasn't able to. What I think poker is all about: make people do what you want them to do.
I'm hearing you, baby.
Thank you,
Shabba. I'm not entirely sure if Shabba's working for us. I thought I'd give it a quick go, but.
I think we're a bit too white and middle class to pull that off, really.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. Interesting.
Alan Thompson. I really like Alan Thompson. His name is Alan Thompson. It's like Robert Paulson in Fight Club. He will be known as Robert Paulson. Alan Thompson. It sounds like a lounge singer. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sunbeam Lounge. Please welcome on stage Alan Thompson.
I think you only do that when he tells a joke, don't you?
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
Well, I didn't have the facility to sort of suddenly go into a Tony Bennett classic, so I just had to go with the drum roll.
Okay. Well, I see.
I hadn't thought about it. I hadn't planned it, to be honest.
No.
And now I'm regretting it, because otherwise I would have brought in a full 16-piece orchestra just for that tiny family gag.
Ladies and gentlemen, the band.
We should have a house band, really, shouldn't we? That would bring it alive. 1:30 in the morning.
Mate.
Bosh.
Mate, don't... You know, this is a suggestion. You remember the days when this was like a doctor and a madman in an attic?
It was very much programmes from a cupboard. I did actually see...
Look at us now.
Do you know what? I nearly taped over my very first ever appearance, which was over a year ago. And I tell you what was most stunning was what the graphics used to look like. If there's any of our long-running viewers out there, you won't remember, because I didn't, but you won't remember how awful it looked. And it's beautiful now. Look at that shadow. Look at that drop shadow. That's rich. That is three-dimensionally hovering. Yeah? It's a deep burn. But honestly, mate, you should have seen it. And I remember the first day that we had the countdown timers that had colour for the first time. Honestly.
What's a countdown timer?
You know, everyone has the period to think. And the first time we had that in colour, and it was a kind of Jamaican. It was the red, green, yellow.
Okay, yeah, I remember that.
I said to Axel, we've got a very Jamaican thing. He was like, what? I was like, leave it. But it was very 2D. I'm sure in probably 12 months' time, this will probably be in 4 dimensions. It'll probably be hovering in front of your coffee table in the front room, and you'll see everyone's faces. Probably.
Poker Broadcaster of the Year.
In a holographic rub-a-dub style. Well, his name is Alan Thompson. He's in the money.
Alan is. Well, yeah, Alan is.
Alan Thompson. He's out of it. But you got in the money. Well done, Alan.
It'd be funny if that wasn't his name.
But that's brilliant. That wouldn't have been better if his name wasn't Alan Thompson.
Would be.
If he's got a really amazing name like Jazz Savage.
Now, look, let's commentate on this game because Mr. Perfect is doing very well. and he deserves all the credit for knocking me out. And he's raising it up with ace-jack, and Nap Hands doesn't really have a call with his 6-2, and he doesn't, and he throws it away. Mr. Perfect, clambering back from the depths of despair or something. What's Nap Hand going to do with his 7-jack? You see, because here I'd throw it, because I've still got 5,700, no reason to do battle with 7-jack. You know, it's one thing being aggressive, it's another thing being reckless. Reckless.
But heads up, it's a flip of a coin.
Look, he's got exactly the same hand.
How amazing.
Mr. Perfect goes all in. And once again, you know, the blinds have become big now, but why would I want to do battle with 9-jack? I just don't want to.
Well, he's got
I just don't want to, Matt.
No, that's fine. Twos.
Is that all right?
That's fine. No. I'm with you. I know that at some point it's going to be out of my hands, but right now I think it still is in my hands. When you can fold and still have enough to do the damage.
That's the point. I mean, you know, in the last game we're folding all the time and having enough to do the damage, because you only have to do the damage once and suddenly you're the chip leader again. You know, you come back from 3,500, 2,800, you know, you come back to 5,600, chip leader again. So Mr. Perfect's got it. And for me, it was the call with the Jack-9. Got to be honest with you. Well done, Mr. Perfect.
Well done, Mr. Perfect.
At least I was beaten by the winner, like England always are in the World Cup.
Stop trying to make yourself feel better. At least I was beaten by the best in the world. We've got a couple of emails to wrap up the scene with. Thanks very much for coming along with us right to the end. It's always appreciated.
Am I shot?
A couple of wrap-ups, as it were. We got an email from Piccalilli. I can't remember how to say his name, but we had from him earlier on. He was like, I need help now. I'm in the middle of a tournament. He said, just to let you guys know, I finished 4th.
Hey!
I got $1.7 thousand, which will help for university next year. And he's in his first year, so everything's going to help. Quite chuffed as it's my second final table of the day.
That's
good
brilliant.
news. We always like to hear how things are going for you. Also got an email from Zitty. Evening, lads. Damn fine effort, chaps. Keep it up. Not for much longer. Couple of quickies. One, there's a thread on the front. Actually, I'm going to jump to the second point first. Matt, I've just seen the cover of the DVD Super Size Me. Can you ram your mouth full of fry so I can check the lightness? No, is the answer to that, but thanks ever so much. Always a pleasure, never a chore.
Would you do it if I asked you?
No. There's a thread on the forum about being centred for a game. How do you make sure you're in the best possible shape before you start a game? Also, can you deliberately change your mental state once the game started? This has got Caspar Berry written all over it, and thank God there's only a couple of minutes left.
Yeah,
Caspar.
no, I know. Well, absolutely. You know what? I think... oh, who is it? I'm really sorry. I'm tired. Whoever it is, it's not making jam. One of the forum posters actually posts much more than I could say. I mean, the forum posters, yeah, it's far more extensive than that. He's got sports psychology down to a fine art. I am, for various reasons, doing a lot of reading about it at the moment, and but I can't do any better than repeat what I said on the show that night that precipitated that discussion. I think the forum thread is excellent. So sorry, Zitty, it's very complete what's there, and if you look for a thread called some links for Caspar, which has been posted by an American guy who lives in Vegas, who says some very kind things about me. He's got 4 excellent links to news sites, which I'm also reading through at the moment. So I'm going to withhold my further statements on that because I don't think I can top what's already out there.
Blimey. Well, there you go. You can't say much further than that, can you? So don't forget, do check out the forum, folks. There's lots of information there. We also had a wrap-up from Red Hot Porn that we were watching on our Pair of Jacks special private tournament. And if you remember, he made lots of bets into a pot and then he folded for 800 at the very end. Do you remember this one? And he says, at the time I folded the hand, I was cursing myself and I could just imagine what the commentary was going to be, i.e. why call 800 on the turn and then fold 800 on the river.
Which is what you said.
Which it was actually, yeah, it was absolutely right. I hated my call on the turn, but unfortunately the fold on the river I thought was much worse. The extra 800 wouldn't have made a great deal of difference to my chances of winning if I lost the pot, but the win would have pretty much won me the tournament. He says it was a bad decision at the time. I was just unaware of how bad it was until I saw it on the telly. A real lesson in making sure I become more familiar with the software. Thanks very much for all your emails. We really appreciate you coming along with us tonight. My thanks to Caspar.
Thank you, mate.
More Poker Night Live action tomorrow, and I'm going to be seeing you on Sunday with Barry. Until then, good night. Thanks very much.